Heavy rain covers the mansion on the outskirts of the royal capital. Two guards stand before the gate, letting the rain soak their capes. Gerald sits at the end of a long table, staring at the woman in the black cloak opposite him in disbelief. This isn't the kind of place someone like you should be wandering around. Do you know where you are, Lady Syria Delphina? Syria lowers her head, avoiding his gaze. Yes, I know. I heard that any wish can be granted here, so I came to request something. Gerald leans back against his chair. Indeed, nothing is impossible here, even taking the Emperor's head. But the price moves with the risk. Syria looks straight into his pupils. That is exactly why I came here. Please marry me. Gerald stops moving, his pupils contracting. What did you say? Syria sits opposite him at the long table. The time and place will be decided by you. Also, on the day of my upcoming wedding, Syria raises her hand to lift her hood. Pink hair falls over her shoulders. Please kidnap me. After that, you must marry me. Gerald lets out a cold laugh. This is truly absurd. This is the Mercenary Guild. Go find someone else to marry. Syria looks straight ahead. I haven't found the wrong place. The Black Mercenary Corps that everyone fears, and their leader, the Mercenary King, Gerald. Speak clearly. You are the one I want to marry. Gerald narrows his eyes, voicing a doubt. What did you say? The leader of the Black Mercenary Corps, Gerald. That is his name now, but I know his true identity. Prince Alperd, who carries the blood of the giant dragons passed down through the imperial family. The mad killer who will slay all obstacles in the future. I didn't come before such a man to beg, but to make a deal. Gerald's eyes turn cold. So, young lady, you know very well who I am and what this place is. Yet you want me to kidnap you for a forced marriage? Syria rests her chin on her hands, the corners of her mouth lifting. That's right. You understand perfectly. Immediately after the kidnapping, we sign a marriage contract and go to the temple for notarization, making our union legally binding. Gerald stands up abruptly, his black cape sweeping across the table. Enough. This is simply a waste of time. Gerald steps towards her, his leather boots striking the floor, making a dull thud. Are you mocking me? Spouting nonsense. I'll kill you. Syria's body freezes, looking at those eyes that changed in an instant. He really will do it, but I have no retreat. Syria takes a deep breath and looks straight at Gerald. I'm not joking. You have no choice but to listen. If I intended to back down, I wouldn't have come to you in the first place. Syria looks straight into Gerald's eyes. If you don't agree, you will die. This marriage must succeed, no matter the cost. To explain why I went to the Crown Prince, I have to go back. A long time ago, when I was a Korean citizen named Lu Xingya. After death, I reincarnated as Syria Delphina. Syria opens her eyes, looking at an unfamiliar ceiling. This isn't Korea. Do not die. A maid pushes open the door and bows by the bed. Princess Syria, are you awake? Syria gradually adapts to the new world. The Delphina ducal family is powerful. Life is wealthy and worry-free. Everything is satisfactory. I once thought that marrying the person I loved deeply, the future would hold only happiness. That is, until I learned he was proceeding with a wedding, before the shock of his betrayal could fade. Syria falls into a conspiracy, accused of abandoning her husband and adultery, and even burdened with the heavy crime of treason. Finally, she meets death. A second life comes suddenly. I don't understand why time turned back, but I absolutely cannot let this chance go. A reincarnator should foresee the future and thus boldly change destiny. Syria looks up at the magnificent palace. Reality, however, was not as smooth as a novel. My return was full of chaos. Who is framing me? Who is telling the truth? Is it better to run away? Accustomed to a life of ease, I didn't know how to act. Weakness clouded my judgment. Ludwig leans close to Syria, asking softly, Syria, are you feeling unwell? Syria avoids his gaze, responding quietly, it's nothing. I initially heard from others that my husband was cheating. I still had time to dig deeper and take action. The tragedy of the first life repeats. The same woman stole my husband. Even resisting at the last moment, the same ending arrived. Syria welcomes her third return. This time, I will absolutely not remain silent. Even if I flee, I must reclaim my life. Plan to escape this hellish world failed again. I was caught. Even worse, those precious people who helped me were dragged down. Rummis, don't worry about me, go. The ending was more tragic than ever before. The third death descends. Syria lowers her eyes, dying again. It's truly strange, desperately wanting to live. Why does the ending always return to this? As if someone knows everything about me and is monitoring my every move. How exactly can I escape this hell? Crows circle in the air, letting out piercing cries. Syria's eyes suddenly widen. Could be that person? Evangeline stands at the edge of the execution ground in a blue cloak, watching the dying Syria with a smile on her lips. Syria stares fixedly at Evangeline, the woman who stole my husband in every life. Not only ruining my life, but now you want to watch me die with your own eyes? What exactly did I do wrong? Evangeline curls the corners of her mouth, whispering silently across the noisy crowd. Goodbye, original heroine. Syria's pupils contract suddenly, staring dead at those moving lips. That was Korean. She was actually speaking Korean. Don't worry, I'll take over everything for you. D in peace. Syria trembles on the scaffold. Original heroine. Could that woman also be a reincarnator? Syria suddenly sits up in bed, gasping for breath as she looks around. Have I returned again? Bastards, you animals, to fool me time and time again. Ludwig, and that woman. Syria lowers her head and sneers, her eyes growing cold. Now I finally understand why the ending always repeats, why she always hides behind the scenes, manipulating everything. This world is a novel. Evangeline is a reincarnator who knows the plot. I didn't even know this world was fictional while she laughed at my ignorance in the dark. The reason Evangeline is obsessed with killing me is because in this story, I am the true original heroine. Everyone bows to her will. Now, I'm the real heroine. I have no choice but to believe this fact. Everything came too easily for her. Not only my fiancé's love, but also the promising imperial prime minister and the master of the magic tower. The top dignitaries of this world all knelt beneath her skirt. In the end, she even claimed the position of crown princess. Every step she took was to take away the position that belonged to me. Every life ended in humiliation, forcibly kicked out of my own story. Such a thing will absolutely not happen again. Sirius sits on the edge of the bed. I used to always choose the path of not hurting others. That weakness killed everyone I cherished. Since all misfortunes are a scripted play, Sirius steps barefoot onto the floor, walking towards the huge full-length mirror. I can no longer remain silent. Even if I don't know the specific plot of this novel, I possess the memories accumulated over 3 past lives. Those secrets that never appeared in the original work. The wedding date is approaching. His heart, I'm afraid, has long since completely tipped towards that woman. Since that is the case, then Syria raises her head, the corners of her mouth curling into an arc. First, I have to change my husband. My fiancé is also my husband from the past 3 lives, the current emperor's favorite nephew, Ludwig. Grand Duke Chiron. He is the enemy who discarded me after using me. He stepped into a loveless marriage for my family's wealth. Syria was imprisoned in paranoid control. The revenge list contains not only Evangeline, but also this man. Syria walks through the corridor, leather shoes clicking on the ground. I must deal with one thing first. She pushes open the heavy double wooden doors. Syria grits her teeth, her hands pressing firmly on the stone railing of the terrace. She leans over and lets out a roar. Ludwig, you better get ready for me. Ludwig stands in the center of the foyer, looking up at the commotion on the 2nd floor. What did you say just now? I heard noise. Come and see, Syria. What is this stubbornness about? You don't want to wear the prepared wedding dress? This is simply unreasonable. The wedding is tomorrow, and this is the dress you personally said you liked. Why go back on your word at this time? Evangeline walks in quickly, reaching out to hold Ludwig's arm. Please calm down. Why are sister-in-law and brother quarreling before the wedding? It's normal for a bride-to-be to feel anxious. Brother, you should support her more. Syria covers her face with her hands, revealing a trembling gaze between her fingers. Truly disgusting. This hypocritical performance. Hearing that piercing laughter. That's right. I will absolutely not wear that wedding dress. At the wedding in the first life, I knew nothing about the man beside me at that moment, nor did I detect the affair between them. Evangeline whispered mockery of serious stupidity. On this wedding dress, mine and Ludwig's names are carved. Yet you are complacent like a protagonist. You are just a tool to make us more excited. Evangeline cups her cheek, the corners of her mouth twisting upward. Thanks to you, that wedding became very wonderful. Evangeline, the daughter brought by the current empress, a harlot. She has no blood relation to the imperial family, yet she uses this identity to weave a web. The plan starts with marrying the emperor's nephew, then trampling all the dignitaries under her feet. Sirius stares at the hand holding on to Ludwig. Evangeline, shameless. This cross-line intimacy can no longer shake me. I just feel nauseous. Syria turns abruptly, grabbing Ludwig's lapel with both hands. Ludwig, do you know? Someone carved someone else's initials on my wedding dress. A trace of panic flits across Ludwig's eyes. Syria, isn't it normal to carve the bride and groom's names on the wedding dress? Syria looks straight into his eyes. That's right, but the names carved on it aren't mine. They're someone else's. Evangeline stands to the side. That's impossible. Sister must have confused it with someone else's dress. Syria lets go of the lapel and turns to stare at Evangeline. All the fittings were done at the Delphina residence, and you were the one who accompanied me to supervise them, Evangeline. The smile on Evangeline's face vanishes. Syria tears open the lining of the wedding dress, her fingertips sliding across the white fabric. Look, here are carved the letters L and E. This is absolutely not a simple mistake. Syria buries her head in the fabric, her shoulders trembling violently. This was obviously done by someone jealous of this wedding. What should I do? Syria leans against Ludwig's chest. Ludwig, I really don't want to think this way, but does someone want to ruin our wedding? I feel that the person who hates me, the one who wants to snatch you away, is right nearby. Syria, do you really think that makes sense? Ludwig holds Syria's shoulders, leaning down to look in her eyes. Besides, our engagement was set by His Majesty himself. I know the mistake with the dress upsets you, but you wouldn't want to defy the imperial family's order, would you? The wedding is tomorrow. There is no time to prepare a new one. Be obedient. Syria remains silent, her long hair covering half her face. You think I don't know what you were planning? Syria steps barefoot on the floor, suddenly turning and rushing towards the terrace. No, absolutely not. Syria climbs over the stone railing of the terrace, standing on the high edge, her long hair messed up by the wild wind. I absolutely cannot let this wedding be ruined. Wearing a dress with someone else's name on it, I would rather die. Ludwig reaches out, his pupils contracting in shock. What are you doing? It's dangerous there. Come down immediately. Syria looks back from the height, her eyes locked on Ludwig's face. Rather than wearing this filthy dress and enduring those despicable schemes, I would rather jump from here. Syria stands at the edge of the terrace, looking down at Ludwig below. What will you do, Ludwig? Your answer is already destined. To ascend to the peak of power, you absolutely cannot lose this wedding. The current you simply cannot ignore me. Ludwig grits his teeth, a low panting sound coming from his throat. He suddenly reaches out and sets the wedding dress on fire. Ludwig opens his arms. Syria, now you have nothing to worry about. Although I don't know who did it, we absolutely cannot let them ruin our wedding. Take my hand. Syria throws herself into Ludwig's arms. Ludwig, I knew you would stand on my side, but the wedding is tomorrow. What should I do without a dress? Ludwig turns and looks at Evangeline. Evangeline, you have a dress, right? Evangeline flinches violently, her hands twisting together tightly. What, brother? Ludwig, holding Syria tightly in his arms, his tone allows no doubt. The one prepared for attending tomorrow's wedding. The birthday gift Her Majesty the Empress gave you. That dress is suitable as a wedding dress. Evangeline's face turns pale instantly, her breathing becoming rapid and messy. Ludwig issues the final ultimatum. Give that dress to your sister-in-law. Syria stands before the dressing mirror, her fingertips stroking the gorgeous silk. I just wanted to strike back at Evangeline's malice, but I didn't expect to take her dress in the end. Syria gazes at the dress on the mannequin. I should have done this sooner. More importantly, the initials embroidered on this dress. Obviously, everyone already knew. They probably just followed orders and turned a blind eye. Syria presses her lips together tightly. I must stay strong. The revenge hasn't even truly begun. Most importantly, this might be my last chance. Ludwig, on the wedding ring taken from the Emperor's hand, 3 purple diamonds are set. Every time I am reborn, 1 diamond loses its luster. And I always wake up on the eve of the wedding. Syria looks down at the ring on her finger. Now all the diamonds are dim. This means this is my last chance. Syria raises her hand and suddenly clenches it. This time, I will absolutely not fail again. Annie knocks lightly on the door and pushes open the heavy wooden door. Miss, it's Annie. I came to see if you're all right. Annie cups Syria's face, her fingertips stroking the red and swollen corners of her eyes. Oh my, your eyes are swollen from crying. Doesn't it hurt? Syria lowers her eyes, letting her hair cover her cheeks. I'm Fine. Thank you for your concern. Annie is the wet nurse's daughter. She died countless times trying to save me. I'll bring a hot towel to apply for you. Syria holds Annie's hand. I promise I will save you this time. Annie leans to Syria's ear, whispering in a low voice. By the way, about the initials on the wedding dress. I think that's the name of Marquis, Russ's daughter. That woman has been seducing the Duke. I said long ago she was suspicious. Syria closes her eyes, the corners of her mouth slightly rising. Thank you, Annie. I heard Sir Beltran is looking for me. If he has something to say, please tell him to come see me tonight. Renu stands outside the door, raising his hand to knock lightly on the heavy wooden door. Miss, I'm coming in. Syria sits behind the desk, responding without looking up. Come Sir Beltran. Renus pushes the door and enters. His black uniform gleams coldly under the light. He walks with a straight back to the center of the room. Renus falling in a pool of blood. In my third life, he helped me escape. He was the only one in the Delphina Knights who didn't betray me. Renus walks towards Syria. Apologies for the sudden visit late at night, but I have an urgent matter to tell you. Besides Annie, he is my only ally. Renus stops. I know you don't want to hear this, but I must say it for your sake. Grand Duke Ludwig. Renus stares at Syria. He isn't marrying you for love. He just wants the power of the Delphina Duchy and that legitimacy of inheritance. His relationship with Marquis Russ's daughter is extremely suspicious. Please change your mind. Syria turns her head to look down at the kneeling knight. He was always righteous and steadfast. In past lives, I always avoided him, ignoring those unpleasant but honest words. Until the end, he was trying to persuade me. But the situation had long gone out of control, heading towards the worst ending. Renus kneels on one knee, lowering his head and pressing his chest. Even now, please reconsider for yourself. Syria turns around and walks to the window. It's too late. The wedding is tomorrow. He will absolutely not accept the cancellation. Renus looks up abruptly, but Mississippi Syria stops. Exactly because of that, those who treat me sincerely have never changed. As the sole heir of the Delphina Duchy, I command you, Knight of Delphina, escort me out of here tonight. Series Maius. Although the realization came too late, I am very happy. I finally understand. This time, it's my turn to protect you. Sir Beltran. 1 hour later, the mansion stands in the night. Syria pulls down her hood, walking quickly into the shadows of the courtyard. Good, there's no one here. Renus follows closely behind, his black cape swaying in the wind. He's guarded my back, so I'm not worried. As the strongest man in Delphina, he can definitely take me away from the mansion. It is precisely because he is so reliable that I chose to speak to him today. How could you do this to me? Syria stopis abruptly. This voice is Evangeline. Syria hides behind a stone pillar, peeking at the two people standing on the terrace. Ludwig stands with his back to the moonlight. Evangeline is questioning him angrily. Why don't you speak? Evangeline takes a step forward. Say something. How dare you give my dress to her? That was prepared for me by my mother. Ludwig crosses his arms. Evangeline, calm down. Screaming like this in the middle of the night, what if someone hears? If you hadn't carved initials on Syria's skirt, none of this would have happened. You should know very well. To fight against the crown prince, I need the power of the Delphina Duchy. So why did you have to do this? Evangeline grits her teeth. I know. Of course I know these things. Evangeline clenches her fists tightly. You have no idea how much Mother and I have paid for this marriage. It is precisely because we need the Delphina family that we endured everything. Ludwig lets out a cold laugh. Since you know it clearly, yet you still behave so annoyingly. You actually made such a fuss just for a skirt. Evangeline suddenly swings her arm. The crisp sound of a slap cuts through the night sky. Ludwig's face is turned to the side by the blow, fingernails leaving red marks on his skin. Syria hides in the shadows, holding her breath. That woman actually hit the Grand Duke. Evangeline. That widens her eyes. I'm sorry. I lost control of my emotions just now. I didn't mean to. Evangeline reaches out, wanting to touch Ludwig's face. Ludwig waves his hand to throw off Evangeline. Don't touch me. Go back to the Imperial Palace immediately. You don't need to attend tomorrow's wedding either. Ludwig turns and walks towards the corridor, his leather boots making a dull sound on the stone bricks. If you dare to mess up anything again, I will absolutely not sit back and watch. Evangeline stands in place and shouts. Ludwig. Syria witnesses everything from the dark, the corners of her mouth rising slightly. How interesting. A rift has appeared between them so quickly. In the past life, they were so inseparable. My entire life was completely ruined by such trash. Syria grips the edge of her cloak tightly, her fingertips turning white from force. Just watch. This time, I will absolutely not let things go as you wish. The chessboard of the wedding is already in chaos, and I am the one who overturned the board. Renus reaches out to hold her clenched hand. Mississippi Syria's body stiffens suddenly, looking up at the face close at hand. Sir Beltran. Renus quickly withdraws his hand, bowing his head in apology. Please forgive my rudeness. You were trembling just now. I was worried. Syria gazes at the knight before her. Beltran, were you worried I would be heartbroken? That's right. For these people who truly care about me. Syria's gaze becomes cold. In this life, I must live. I absolutely cannot lose everything again because of escape. Since I have seen through those hypocritical faces, I will personally end this farce. I will absolutely not foolishly escape reality like in a previous life. There is only one chance left. This is the final gamble of my life. In this life, I want to make Crown Prince Alpert my ally. Use the secrets learned from the regression to win his trust. Dragon's blood flows in the imperial family. Those who inherit the blood also inherit the madness. The purer the blood, the deeper the madness. He is the crown prince with blood closest to the progenitor, and also the one most deeply swallowed by madness. The emperor cannot trust a mad son, turning to support his nephew Ludwig. To fight back, Alpert took the alias of the mercenary Gerald and lurked in the imperial capital, accumulating power on the day the blood moon rises. But in all endings of the previous lives, Alpert was eventually executed by dismemberment. This time, I must prevent his death, because I know how to save him from his destiny. To save him, more accurately, to save myself. Syria stands under the gorgeous chandelier, looking straight ahead. If you don't marry me, you will die. Syria found him just like this. Alpert turns his head sideways. Ivildi? What do you mean by that? The crown prince will absolutely not refuse this proposal. In the past 3 lives, he was killed every time because of his madness. Syria presses her hand to her chest. If the mercenary king accepts my request, I guarantee Crown Prince Alpert will not go mad and will be able to ascend the throne smoothly. If the emperor discovers your dual identity, not only will the throne be lost, but your life will also be in danger. Alpert falls into silence. You mean I am that mercenary king? Alpert lets out a light chuckle. Indeed, it will be troublesome if that identity were exposed. He looks reasonable enough. As long as I keep this pace, things might progress smoothly. Alpert's eyes change instantly. Red pupils tremble violently in the darkness. A sense of oppression sweeps through the surroundings. Syria's eyes widen suddenly. What's happening? His eyes changed. Alpert lunges forward suddenly, pinning her firmly against the wall. Look at me. Syria Delphina. Alpert's eyes are cold. I most detest people who try to manipulate me, claiming to see through my identity as crown prince and arrogantly saying you can support me to ascend the throne. Alpert draws a short sword. The cold metal presses against the skin of her neck. Every word you said is disgustingly arrogant. Alpert lets out a roar. Did you not think that this is exactly touching my reverse scale? Syria is forced to tilt her head back, feeling the chill from her neck. Completely miscalculated. I didn't expect Alpert to be angry to this extent. If I die here like this, my final plan is completely finished. No, I absolutely cannot give up like this. This is the first time in 3 lives I've had contact with Alpert. If I cannot persuade him in this life, I will eventually die miserably at Evangeline's hands anyway. Since that is the case, I have long ceased to fear death. Syria stares into Alpert's eyes, the corners of her mouth curling into an arc. I'm sorry, but I'm not afraid of death. In the end, the only person who will feel regret is you, mercenary King Gerald. Alpert's pupils contract suddenly. He withdraws the short sword, letting out a short laugh. I haven't heard that the daughter of the Delphina Duke family suffers from mental illness. Syria gazes at the sheathed blade. As you can see, my family carries humble blood and does not have that genetic madness. Fortunately, he didn't get serious. In that instant just now, he indeed had no killing intent. He re-evaluates the woman before him, the corners of his mouth rising slightly. All right, my brave and confident lady, then tell me. He leans close to Syria, asking in a low voice, how exactly do you plan to stop the madman before you from losing his reason? You don't really think I will reveal such key intelligence for free, do you? Syria watches his reaction. If I spit it all out now, you will just kill me immediately, won't you? He straightens up. I could also kidnap you right now, lock you up in a place no one knows, and torture you until you eventually speak. As expected, not so easily shaken. Since that is the case, do Do you think I came here unprepared? I have prepared countless countermeasures. If I don't return safely, that intelligence about the Duke's residence will fall into the hands of your political enemies. Syria looks straight at him. Killing me does you no good. Alpert falls into silence. What a strange fellow. I am just an ordinary woman. You should know very well. He lets out a cold laugh. An ordinary woman wouldn't specifically collect this kind of intelligence to threaten me. How can I believe your words? Submitting to your threat is too risky for me. Since that is the case, why not give you a little sweetener first? Syria takes an item from her bosom. As a deposit for the commission, I will give you something first. He shows a puzzled look. Are you planning to run away directly now? Syria waves her hands repeatedly. Of course not. Please wait a moment. He sighs and closes his eyes to calm his breathing. All right, let me see what exactly you brought. Open it. He reaches out to take the cloth bag, untying the knot. If this is another trick, next time I really will cut off your head. He looks down into the bag, his movements stopping abruptly. Syria watches his reaction. Agrippina's tear. This is one of the 5 blessed gems your highness has been looking for. Syria presses her hand to her chest. If you accept my commission, I will also inform you of the whereabouts of the remaining gems. He scrutinizes the gem in his hand, letting out a low hum. Indeed, it is a rare item. But do you think I, as the crown prince, will be blinded by a mere gem? Syria looked straight into his eyes. This is not just a mere gem. It is the Agrippina, one of the 5 great blessing gems your highness has always desired. And I have now placed one of them in your hands. However, there is one thing your highness does not know. Syria lowered her voice. Neither Agrippina nor any other blessed gem or holy relic can cure your highness's madness. Only through me can you find the method to resolve the madness. He suddenly swung his short sword. The blade sliced through the air, making a crisp metallic ring. Syria was slammed against the wall by the immense force. He pressed close, paying the deposit with words filled with rage. You're truly audacious. I'd like to see how you intend to pay the remaining balance. Syria raised her head. I told you before, I will ensure your highness does not go mad and help you ascend the throne. Alpert increased the pressure on his hand. Explain the specific method clearly. If you intend to use this nonsense to lure me into a political trap, don't think about leaving here alive. Syria smiled under the oppression. Mercenary King Gerald, regarding that method, you can only know it after you accept the commission. I have already paid the deposit. As for whether to accept this commission, the choice is entirely in your hands. He stared at Syria. Are you threatening to reveal my identity? Syria responded briskly. That is also part of the commission terms. Alpert fell silent for a moment, then let out a short, cold laugh. This is the most absurd commission I have ever received. He withdrew his short sword. Fine, I accept this commission. You better keep your promise. A red moon hung behind the spire. A blood moon appeared today. The maid stood before the window, gazing at the red light outside. Every time I see it, it feels more and more ominous. The prince shouldn't be coming back tonight, right? The manservant walked up behind her. Shoo, isn't he out busy with official business today? The maid clasped her hands tightly. That being said, the sound of leather shoes stepping on the floor echoed in the corridor. Heavy and rhythmic. Alpert appeared at the end of the corridor. His blonde hair looked dim under the red light, his narrow red eyes revealing a chill. The servants abruptly turned around and let out a gasp. Your Highness, why are you back so soon? He continued to step forward. I just returned to my own home. Is there a problem? The corners of his mouth lifted as he watched the cowering servants. Or are you afraid? Afraid that I will suddenly go mad and kill everyone? The manservant hurriedly lowered his head. Your Highness, it is absolutely nothing like that. Alpert passed in front of the floor-to-ceiling window. The blood-red moonlight shrouded his silhouette. Whenever the red moon rises, I go to the underground catacombs to suppress the madness. This matter is little known throughout the Empire and even the entire continent. Only that woman. She actually knew all of this. Not only that, I can prevent His Highness Alpert from falling into madness. I pray to the goddess with this humble body. May the truth of these words be verified. Then prove that these words are true. Syria looked straight into his eyes. If what I say is false, then please cut off my hands. I swear to God, I can definitely quell your madness. Quell the madness. The source of the intelligence. That woman's identity cannot be determined yet. Whatever happens, at the very least, I absolutely cannot let her serve Ludwig. He reached out and pushed open the heavy door, his fingertips brushing against the cold door edge. Come to think of it, this was a commission I couldn't refuse from the start. To dare come here and threaten me. What an interesting woman. Did she just say the wedding is tomorrow? The morning of the fourth wedding arrived, the day after making the request to Alpert. This day had come after all. Ludwig stood in the center of the hall, staring at Syria before him. Do you have any idea how embarrassed I was that day? Syria, with such a soft heart, do you think you can fulfill the duties of the Grand Duchess? No matter how sad you were at the time, what on earth did you do to cause such a wound on your neck? Syria, dressed in a white gown, listened silently to the accusations. Syria slightly lowered her eyelids to hide her red eyes, a hint of a curve appearing on her lips. Ludwig, there was an intruder at dawn. Ludwig's narrow red eyes widened in shock. What did you say? When I woke up, someone already had a knife against my neck. Ludwig turned abruptly. Stop spouting nonsense. Do you know how tight the security was last night? You must have panicked after a nightmare and hurt yourself. Syria looked straight into Ludwig's eyes. Do you think I would really inflict this kind of wound on myself? If it wasn't an intruder, then it must be someone on the inside. Someone really wants to interfere with our wedding. Ludwig froze in place. Syria leaned closer to Ludwig. I said it before. Someone who has a crush on you seems to be trying to ruin our marriage. Speaking of which, where exactly were you last night? I called your name countless times. Syria leaned in close to Ludwig. Ludwig, you weren't with another woman during that time, were you? It's time you felt some pressure too, Ludwig. I didn't plan on letting you live comfortably. Ludwig suddenly grabbed Syria's wrist. Syria, Ludwig lowered his voice. You should learn to distinguish what should be said and what shouldn't. On the day of a sacred wedding, don't force your delusions onto me. Ludwig pushed Syria away with force, complaining like this on the morning of the wedding. Are you satisfied now? Syria fell to the ground, her white dress spreading over the cold floor. Leather shoes made a crisp sound on the stone tiles. Your Majesty. The Emperor looked straight ahead and let out a roar. Ludwig, what exactly is going on here? Sweat seeped from Ludwig's forehead. Your Majesty. Syria turned her face to the side, the corners of her mouth hooking upwards. You're finally here. Your Majesty. This is the reason I kept provoking Ludwig with nonsense. The Emperor always comes to congratulate on the wedding morning. Ludwig obviously knew nothing about this, and as the Emperor approached, he must have heard all the arguing just now. The Emperor cannot trust his own biological son, so he chose to support his nephew Ludwig as a counterbalance. Now, Ludwig dares to neglect the bride he personally arranged and even acts recklessly on the wedding day. The Emperor will never sit idly by. Arguing with the bride on the wedding day, Ludwig turned abruptly, pointing a trembling hand at Syria. Your Majesty, this is just a misunderstanding, right, Syria? Syria lowered her head and arranged the white flowers in her arms. Your Majesty, he is right. I am very sorry for causing this disturbance. The Emperor noticed the bruise on her wrist. Now you've gone from bad to worse, even daring to lay a hand on your fiancé? Ludwig, I am very disappointed in you. Ludwig's eyes widened suddenly, his lips trembling violently. No, Your Majesty, that bruise wasn't caused by me. In order for you to successfully marry Syria Delphina, you should know better than anyone who is pushing things behind the scenes. If you disappoint me one more time, I will have to consider other alternatives. Ludwig froze in place, cold sweat rolling down his cheek. Your Majesty, the Emperor strode out of the hall. Truly pathetic. Syria stood in the distance, watching his retreating figure. This is enough. The corners of Syria's mouth hooked into an arc. Now the only thing left is that one matter. Waiting for Alpert to kidnap me. The bell tower stood tall in the sunlight. Cheers penetrated the thick stone walls, echoing over the entire city. The streets were lined with people, waving their arms and shouting loudly. Her Highness the Duchess. Happy wedding. You two are truly a match made in heaven. May God bless you both. Syria sat inside the carriage, waving through the glass. These words that were supposed to bless the bride sounded like curses at this moment. More importantly, where exactly is the crown prince now? Syria turned her head slightly, searching for the expected figure. Noon. The hands of the clock tower in the center of the square overlapped. He should have appeared by now. There was no trace of him. Thinking about it carefully, this does sound ridiculous. A woman who suddenly appeared claiming she can cure madness and help him ascend the throne. Did he doubt me? Has he even abandoned me? The carriage shook violently. Syria slammed against the inner wall of the carriage. What? A knight in white armor spurred his horse out of the alley. The coachman yanked on the reins, looking ahead in terror. That person is. A white cape billowed in the wind. Impossible. Alpert reined in his horse. His short golden hair shimmered in the sunlight. His narrow red eyes locked onto the carriage. His Highness the Crown Prince? Alpert dismounted. His movements were agile. Passers-by stopped and looked sideways, whispering, "Is that person Crown Prince Alperd? He should be attending the ceremony at the temple. Why would he appear in the bride's procession?" Alperd walked straight toward the carriage. The escort knights blocked the front of the carriage, their voices trembling. "Your Highness, why are you here? If you are here to congratulate the bride, the procession will arrive at the temple very soon." Alperd turned his head, his eyes cold. "Move." Alperd drew his sword. The sound of metal friction was sharp and piercing. "I have an urgent matter to confirm, so don't block my way. Knights, do not leave your posts. Stay where you are." The escort knights lower their heads. "How dare we obstruct your highness's path? But the matter you wish to confirm is..." Alperd gripped the hilt of his sword. "Where is Lady Syria?" The escort knights looked troubled, stammering. That is..." Two guards exchanged glances, lowering their voices. "He's looking for the bride. Something's wrong. Quickly go to the main hall and notify the Grand Duke." "Understood." Alperd lowered his eyelids, his red pupils constricting slightly. Alperd suddenly swung his sword. The blade sliced through the air, creating a bloody arc. An escort knight gave a muffled groan, lost his balance, and fell heavily onto the stone road. Another guard froze in place, his pupils trembling violently. Alperd looked down at the fallen guard, blood dripping from the long sword in his hand. "I believe I warned you. No one is allowed to leave their spot. This time it was just an arm. Next time, be prepared to lose your head." "Then I will ask one last time. Where is Lady Syria?" Passers-by looked terrified, whispering about the Crown Prince's madness. Even if he is the Crown Prince, to commit such an atrocity at the wedding of his cousin, Grand Duke Ludwig. White wedding shoes. They made a crisp sound on the stone road. The crowd gasped. "Lady Syria." Syria pushed open the carriage door and appeared in everyone's view. Syria curtsied slightly. "The daughter of Delphina greets your highness. I do not know why your highness is blocking the road, but if we delay any longer, I will miss the wedding ceremony. So please move aside." Alperd reached out, his fingertips touching the white veil. He suddenly lifted it. Syria stood still, letting the veil slide down. The passers-by gasped. He lifted the bride's veil. "The ceremony hasn't even started. How dare he commit such an insulting act?" The escort knights rushed forward. "Your Highness, you cannot do this. A veil that not even the Grand Duke has lifted yet." Alperd turned a deaf ear, lowering his head to approach Syria, his gaze locked on her face. Renus Beltran took a step sideways, blocking in front of Syria. "Your Highness." Renus Beltran gripped his sword hilt. "How can you humiliate a noble lady like this? I do not know your intention for this action, but this is tantamount to an insult to the entire Delphina family. Please show my mistress the respect she deserves." Passers-by whispered in low voices. "Is that guy crazy? Even to protect his master, drawing a sword against the crown prince. Too reckless." Syria gazed at the man before her, pleading evident in her red pupils. "I beg you, please have mercy. Let's go to the temple." Alperd stared at Syria, his narrow red eyes narrowing slightly. "Did you go to these lengths just to make the kidnapping easier? So you are this kind of woman. You were so bold in front of me before, but now you've put on a different face. In that case, playing along with this boring charade isn't difficult. I just have to play the role of the crown prince forcing a marriage. Is that what you mean?" Alperd swung his longsword. The blade slashed across Renus Beltran's chest. Renus Beltran gave a muffled groan, staggering backward. Syria's eyes widened. "Beltran, you're bleeding a lot." Renus Beltran struggled to stand firm. "I'm Euphina. Miss, please step back. It's too dangerous here." Syria turned to Alperd, her red pupils filled with terror. "Your Highness, I beg you, please have mercy on him. This expression doesn't look like acting. What the hell is going on? Where did that pitiful acting from just now go?" She's actually worried about that man. "For some reason, this makes me feel nauseous." Alperd lowered his eyelids, a chill emanating from his red pupils. "Lady Syria, it seems this knight is indeed loyal to you." Syria straightened her back. "That's right. The knight's sin is the master's sin. If you must exact a price, then please take it out on me." Alperd let out a soft chuckle, the corners of his mouth hooking into a cold arc. Alperd suddenly swung his fist, striking heavily into Renus Beltran's abdomen. A dull thud sounded. Renus Beltran spat out a mouthful of blood, his body curling up in severe pain. "Syria skriamid." Alperd reached out and clasped Syria's hand. "Since you say you will pay the price for him, then use yourself to repay it." Renu's Beltran knelt on one knee, clutching his abdomen, letting out a painful groan, struggling to reach out. Mississippi Alperd picked Syria up with one arm. Syria struggled in Alperd's arms. "Your Highness, what are you doing? Why are you doing this to me?" Passers-by stopped to watch. The crown prince actually forcibly took that lady away. Alperd's lips hooked into a cold Arxeria Delphina. "Remember this well. This is the price you asked for. You now owe me a debt. Its weight is equal to that knight's life. To be honest, someone like me doesn't understand the evil practice of predatory marriage. But remember, you must repay this debt to me. Thanks to your cooperation, the things I wanted to confirm are all finished." Alperd tightened his arms. "She's too good for a bastard like Ludwig, so I am taking Delphina's daughter away. As for the price of the insult of lifting the veil, I will resolve it by becoming the groom myself. Pass these words to Ludwig. Tell him there is no need to wait at the temple anymore. Let him figure out himself, then scram home." Syria turned her head sharply, her red pupils contracting in extreme shock. "Your Highness, please let me go." The sound of rapid hoofbeats rang out. "No, Ludwig." Renu's Beltran chased from behind. Mississippi. The custom of predatory marriage originated 300 years ago at the beginning of the empire's founding. It was a chaotic era. The strong took brides through force, thereby establishing absolute dominance. A berserk dragon snatched the princess from the wedding venue. This was the catalyst for the founding of the empire. The continuation of the dragon's bloodline was seen as a matter of course. The crown prince, who inherited the thickest dragon blood, took the bride away on the wedding day, recreating the founding legend of the first emperor. A crisp, shattering sound came from within the temple. The guests looked at each other in dismay. What? The bride was snatched? Ludwig stood in the empty hall, his boots stomping heavily on the red carpet. Predatory marriage is simply nonsense. What are you saying? The bride was kidnapped? The groom is the Grand Duke. The witness is His Majesty the Emperor. What kind of lunatic dares to ruin this wedding? With so many knights escorting, how could such a thing happen? Evangeline rushed forward, clutching Ludwig's sleeve tightly. "Brother, please calm down. Do you know how many eyes are watching right now? When the bride was kidnapped, this bastard did nothing. How do you expect me to be calm?" The knight pressed his forehead to the ground, his voice broken. "Please kill me." But we really were powerless. The person who took Lady Syria was none other than that person. It was His Highness the Crown Prince. Ludwig's pupils constricted slightly. "What? Move. I want to see His Majesty the Emperor immediately." Ludwig walked through the long corridor, his boots making loud noises on the stone slabs. "Your Majesty." Two guards crossed their spears, blocking the closed palace gates. Ludwig stopped. "I am here to see His Majesty." "Move." The guards straightened their backs, staring straight ahead. "We are very sorry. You cannot enter. His Majesty is conducting an emergency consultation and has ordered that no one is allowed inside." Ludwig lowered his eyelids, his red pupils hidden in the shadow of his hair. He is probably considering how to quell the situation, choosing the plan most beneficial to him. Completely disregarding my position, Ludwig grabbed the guard's collar and let out a roar. "His Majesty the Emperor, please grant me justice." Rumors have already spread throughout the imperial capital. This is an insult to the empire. The study was dead silent. Sunlight shone through the high windows onto the round table. The emperor sat in an armchair, arms crossed. Isabel put down her teacup, breaking the silence. "Your Majesty, how do you intend to handle this matter?" The emperor stared at the steam rising from the cup. "I am considering it. Neither the missing bride nor the culprit who took her has appeared yet." Isabel looked straight into the emperor's eyes. "But the people have already decided that Grand Duke Ludwig's wedding is thoroughly ruined. I am really worried. About Alperd." Isabel lifted her teacup and took a sip of black tea. To commit such a lawless act, has he already been swallowed by madness? The emperor gazed at Isabel's bare arm, his gaze stopping on a scar. That scar. It was a mark left by Alperd when he was 10 years old, the first time he showed signs of madness. Since that day, Isabel's right arm could never be raised normally again. Exposing this scar now was to make him remember that madness. The crown prince. Indeed, he fully inherited the late empress's madness. The emperor suddenly swung his fist, slamming it heavily onto the round table. "Bam! Do not mention Roxelin regarding this matter, especially at a time like this. Be careful with your words." Isabel lowered her head and put down the teacup in her hand. "Yes, I apologize to you. I was inconsiderate." The emperor gritted his teeth. "Roxelin, the only empress who left me long ago. Alperd looks too much like you. That is the mark left when you are swallowed by madness. That kind of madness cannot be hidden at all. That is why I cannot trust Alperd even more. Hooves trampled over the grass, making rapid sounds, galloping towards the distance. Alperd held Syria in his arms, riding through the forest. 3 days had passed. The crown prince kidnapped me to get married. Finally arrived at the outskirts of the imperial capital. Marriage by capture is violence against one's will. I originally detested it, but this is the only way I can join hands with him. The predatory bride has symbolic meaning in the history of the empire. It can awaken memories of the founding of the nation, thereby consolidating the crown prince's position. Truly ironic. The one who made me realize this was actually Ludwig. He staged a farce of kidnapping the bride to delay time and frame me, just to legitimately marry Evangeline. After Alperd died, that guy who became the crown prince used the founding myth to whitewash his legitimacy. Syria leaned on Alperd's shoulder and let out a low laugh. This time, I will use the same method against him. Such a pity. I can't see Ludwig's current expression with my own eyes. Next, it's time to tell Alperd the next step of the plan. Alperd looked ahead, his brows furrowed. Syria noticed his peculiarity. Why does he look so unwilling? Syria spoke softly. Your Highness, the long journey must have exhausted you. Alperd did not turn his head, his tone stiff. No, not all. Syria observed his expression. Is it because of traveling continuously for 3 days that his mood has worsened? Syria asked tentatively. Since we have already left the imperial capital, can we slow down a little? Alperd suddenly yanked the reins tight. I can't do that. The sound of hoofbeats became more urgent, echoing violently in the forest. Don't know when the pursuers will catch up. Hold on tight. Alperd clasped Syria's waist with one hand, locking her entire body in his arms. Syria let out a gasp, her body rising and falling violently with the horse's back. I feel like I'm going to throw up. Alperd remained silent. So what was I blindly worrying about just now? He wasn't thinking about anything at all. The royal villa on the outskirts of the imperial capital. The white domed building stood in the sunlight. All was silent around them. Syria stepped off the carriage and onto the promenade paved with stone bricks. Every step felt heavy. This was truly an exhausting journey. Syria looked around. Finally, I could take a bath. Where's the bed? Where's the bed? Not being able to wash for 3 whole days. This feeling was terrible. Alperd leaned in close. My bride is truly bold. It's even a bit embarrassing. Syria froze suddenly, her cheeks flushing red. What? I didn't mean that. Alperd straightened up. His golden hair shimmered in the light, his expression composed. Wait, why is only this man looking so refreshed? Syria slumped her shoulders. She had no energy left to joke. Please let me rest. Your Highness the Crown Prince. A priest from the main temple was waiting in front of the villa, bowing in greeting. You really came, Your Highness. Alperd stopped and nodded slightly. Long time no see. Just as I mentioned before, please officiate the wedding for me and Syria Delphina, and serve as our witness. Syria raised her head abruptly, her pupils contracting in shock. Those words just now. This was indeed the exact request I made on the day I asked for the kidnapping. But he was clearly furious after hearing the details back then. I thought he didn't take this request seriously at all. He actually did it all. He is striving to fulfill every part of the promise. Outwardly reckless and impulsive, but actually meticulous in thought. The priest looked troubled. Your Highness, I remain deeply concerned. A marriage completed through abduction will trap this lady in a scandal. Do you really intend to continue? Alperd turned his face, his gaze sharp. It has been 3 days since I took the bride away. Even if I send her back now, can her reputation remain intact? Only by marrying me is the path of least harm to her reputation. Alperd's mouth curved up slightly. Besides, didn't you already swear to me? To repay my mother's kindness, you would do anything. The priest fell into silence. Your Highness is right. Syria lifted the hem of her dress and took a step forward. I want to marry the crown prince. This is the conclusion I reached after 3 days of distress. Please respect my decision. The priest looked at the 2 people before him and finally relaxed his furrowed brows. I understand. The priest stood behind the altar. Please, both of you come forward. The chapel was empty. The pews were arranged neatly in the silence. The ceremony was simple and quick. Syria and Alperd stood side by side before the primordial god and the earth goddess, exchanging vows, signing their names on the marriage contract. The priest anointed their foreheads with holy oil, chanting blessings in a low voice. May the spirits protect this union. The priest looked at the newlyweds and declared solemnly, Hereby, You too, witnessed by the primordial god and the earth goddess, you have been reborn, officially united as husband and wife. The most arduous task was finally solved. The right to recognize marriage belongs only to the temple. Neither the emperor nor dragons can interfere. Syria lowered her eyelids. Finally, I am safe. The priest lowered his hands. Now, please exchange the kiss of the covenant. Syria froze sudene. Wait, what did he just say? Quiche, I actually missed this step. From the moment I decided to marry, I should have thought of it. Syria turned her head, stealing a glance at Alpert beside her. To kiss someone I've only known for a few days? And there is no love involved. The other party is His Highness the Crown Prince. Is this really going to happen? Alpert turned around and looked down at Syria. I must kiss her. Calm down, Syria. This is just a means to win over Alpert. Alpert turned around and reached out to support the back of Syria's neck. Syria closed her eyes. We've come this far. What does a kiss matter? Don't panic. It's just part of the wedding. Alpert lowered his head and kissed Syria, his arms encircling her waist. Light exploded around the two of them. Lips overlapped. Bodies couldn't stop trembling. Hearts felt like they were about to burst. I feel like my heart is going to explode. Closing my eyes only makes my senses sharper. This feeling is strange. I have made vows with a kiss many times before. This is completely different from Ludwig. Syria pushed Alpert away, gasping for breath. Enough. That's enough. He had absolutely no intention of letting go. How long is this going to last? Syria stared at the face close at hand. Your Highness, please stop here. The priest is still here, so we should end it. The priest stood in place, lowered his head, and coughed lightly, averting his gaze. Alpert gazed at Syria, calling her name in a low voice. Syria, what exactly are you? Syria held her breath, her heart almost stopping. What does this mean? This feeling is strange. Having experienced madness and rage countless times, I thought I had long learned to control myself. Just now, the moment their lips touched, reason completely snapped. Even the beast within his body that always struggled and roared actually calmed down. Alpert had never felt this before. For the first time in his entire life, he experienced peace. Who exactly is this woman? The Imperial Palace stands in the Imperial capital. Evangeline rushed into the main hall, calling out loudly for her mother. I'm very worried about the news here. Evangeline clenched her hands. Kidnapping the bride before the wedding is simply absurd. What does His Majesty intend to do? How will he punish those two? Isabel shook her head. His Majesty told us to wait. Apart from that, he said nothing. Alpert and the bride haven't even been found yet. His Majesty seems undecided on how to punish them. Ludwig's eyes widened. How is that possible? Whether they are present or not, the crime is already clear. As expected, His Majesty still favors his own son. Isabel turned her head, her eyes cold and solemn. Anyway, only His Majesty can control Alpert. Do not say anything that might anger His Majesty. Evangeline lowered her head. I still don't understand, Brother Alpert. Why did he choose that woman? Isabel lowered her voice. That is why our next actions are important. Since their union makes no sense, we can incite public opinion at will, spread any rumors we want. Evangeline looked up abruptly. A glint flashed in her eyes. Isabel waved the folding fan in her hand. We must guide public opinion. We need to make this incident look like just the crown prince going mad, resulting in an accident. Portray Alpert as a lunatic who lost his reason, a dangerous man who could lose control at any moment. That way, the people will believe that the union between Ludwig and Syria is imminent. As long as we create this situation, even His Majesty cannot ignore this pressure. Syria sank her entire body into the bath. The warm water wrapped around her. She let out a long sigh, feeling like she had come back to life. I didn't expect the wedding could be so simple. Before the regression, every wedding was extremely luxurious. Everywhere was filled with flowers and jewelry. Everyone was praising that couple. Compared to then, the simplicity now actually makes me feel calm. Probably because this is the marriage I chose for myself. Syria raised her arms and cheered. Finally took the first step to escape that man. The contract has been reached. Next, I just need to go to the capital to handle the aftermath. Syria's eyes moved slightly, but I wonder if Sir Beltran is safe. Syria frowned slightly. He was injured. He must think I was really kidnapped now. I hope he doesn't commit suicide to apologize for his failure. With his loyalty, he would totally do it. And he must also think I've been imprisoned. It's really worrying. Syria covered her face with her hands, letting out a sigh. But it's better if they don't know the truth. Syria lowered her hands, her eyes returning to calm. Even if I tell them now, it will only sound like an absurd story. I hope those two can wait patiently until I can explain all this clearly. The flame on the candlestick flickered. 3 maids bowed. Wishing you a pleasant evening, madam. Syria stood in the flower-filled room, her expression stiff. Oh my, this situation is really suffocating. From the grand, I don't know about that pleasant evening. Syria dragged the maids of the separate palace. They definitely don't know about this relationship. It's merely a survival alliance. Syria waved her right hand. Whatever. Who cares about that? The most important things now are a pillow and a bed. I need to lie down and rest. She suddenly stopped moving, sensing a strange presence in the room. Syria turned her head abruptly, pupils contracting. Your Highness? Alfred was startled, opening his red eyes to look at Syria. My bride is unexpectedly active. Syria took a step back. What nonsense are you talking about? Why is Alfred in my room? Syria steadied her breathing. More importantly, what are you doing here? If you're worried about others' eyes, I have already ordered the servants not to approach our room. Alfred leaned in close. Do I need a specific reason? After all, tonight is our wedding night. Alfred reached out and embraced Syria's waist, pulling her into his arms. Is it not? My bride. Syria looked up abruptly. What are you saying? Alfred tilted his head, his expression composed. Why so surprised? Did I say something wrong? No, it's just that this wasn't in the request details. Anyway, let go of me first. Syria hitriatid bakvarj. Her heel hit the edge of the bed. She lost her balance, letting out a scream, falling onto the center of the bed on her back. Alfred looked down at her. You're more scheming than I thought, actually luring me to the bed on your own. Alfred leaned down, pressing closer. What a clumsy seduction technique. Syria lay on the bed, breathing rapidly. This distance is too close. Syria, newlyweds. You should know very well what to do on the wedding night, right? This is too dangerous. If this continues, something will really happen. Syria reached out to brace against his head. Wait a moment. Since the previous request was only a verbal agreement, I think there must be a misunderstanding. The most important thing to do now is to draft a formal contract. Syria raised her index finger, her gaze burning. Written terms must be stated. Syria sat at the round table, pushing the paper to the opposite side. This is everything. You shouldn't have any objections, right? Alfred looked down to examine the contract. The other terms are fine, but what does this one clause mean? Alfred gazed at Syria by his side. When I become emperor, you will be the only empress. Yet you say you want a divorce at that time. Syria nodded in confirmation. That's right. This is the proof of my pure motives. I'm not helping you for power or the title of empress. Alfred reached out to support his chin, humming in thought. Why prove these things to me? Syria froze on the spot. Isn't this more beneficial for Alfred? After all, he will soon have someone he loves. In the second life before the regression, I was the confidant of the emperor who killed Alfred. The emperor covered his face and wept. That child seemed to have a woman he loved. After Alfred died, the emperor lived in seclusion in a remote temple. He completely broke down. How ironic. I only found out about these things after Alfred died. The emperor sat on the throne muttering in a low voice, constantly repeating his regret for killing his own son. Even in the first life, I had heard rumors that Alfred had a lover, although I never saw that woman. But she must exist. That's why I added that divorce agreement, so he can find his true love later. Is he angry? Even though I'm being so considerate. How excessive. Alfred asked in confusion. What's wrong? Is there something on my face? Syria snapped back to reality. I was just lost in thought. Alfred asked again. I asked you why you wanted to add this clause. Syria looked straight at him. Because your highness might have someone in your heart in the future. Or rather, that person might appear at any time. Alfred leaned closer. Isn't this just insurance so that you yourself can withdraw at any time? Syria was stunned. What did you say? How can you say such hurtful words? Just don't thank me later. Alfred pressed on. What if I don't thank you? If when the time comes, not only am I not grateful, but instead feel dissatisfied with this agreement? What do you plan to do? Syria waved her hands repeatedly. That kind of thing is absolutely impossible. Let's just settle it like this. Alfred stared at the agreement. If I am dissatisfied with the divorce clause in the future, just delete it. But if it is as you say, and I feel happy and grateful, as a thank you gift, I will give this separate palace to you. Syria slapped the table and stood up. Deal. This is simply an unexpected joy. It seems I must ensure he won't go back on his word later. The night was deep. Alfred lay alone on the large bed, one hand behind his head, staring at the ceiling in a daze. What a strange woman. One moment she was bold enough to hire me. The next she panicked because of a little joke. Syria of the Delphina family. Her background has nothing unusual. Perhaps it is why she is so elusive. Alfred recalled that day. The blade pressed against his throat. An ordinary person would have been trembling with fear long ago, but she didn't even blink. After a forced march of 3 days and 3 nights, even if her body had reached its limit, she still persisted until the imperial palace. Although she complained about being tired, she never collapsed. On the outside, she looks no different from an ordinary noble lady. In reality, she is a calculating woman. Only when facing that night can I read her mind. If that man is really her weakness, I should utilize this point to control her. This inexplicable irritability lingers, truly unpleasant. 3 days later, the Duke of Delphina's residence. Heavy rain washed over the stone outer walls. The dungeon iron door was kicked open heavily. Chains rattled violently in the darkness. Bastard, wake up! Renuz's arms were suspended by iron chains. Ludwig swung his fist abruptly, heavily hitting Renuz's head. Lift your head up for me. Can't you hear? I told you to look up. Renuz slowly opened his eyes. Purple pupils lit up in the shadows, staring directly at the abuser before him. Ludwig gritted his teeth. What does that look? You arrogant bastard. Ludwig swung his fist and struck violently, smashing heavily onto Renuz's face. It's because you didn't protect the bride well that I have to suffer this humiliation. What right do you have to still lift your head? Evangeline walked quickly into the dungeon, loudly shouting to stop Ludwig. Ludwig didn't turn his head. Get out. I'm in no mood to deal with you right now. Evangeline, stop. I have news to tell. Brother Alfred is bringing that woman back to the capital. He looked up abruptly. What? Evangeline raised the letter in her hand. This is intelligence sent back by spies planted by Mother, including their route and their current exact location. Ludwig reached out to snatch it. Get to me quickly. Truly laughable, since she's crawling back on her own. My previous worries were completely superfluous. At this distance, I can catch up very quickly. Evangeline watched him, truly pathetic to the extreme. This scene wasn't in the original script at all. Is it because I distorted the direction too much that it triggered this butterfly effect? Evangeline clenched her fists, nails digging deep into her palms. But Mother has already deployed knights from the imperial family. Evangeline's lips curled upward. Now go quickly and bring Syria back. Even if the situation changes, it doesn't matter. I must rope that man in as an ally. In the end, everything will fall into my hands. Odanu's plains. 3 fast horses galloped at full speed. The outer shrine is just ahead. I will take back the stolen bride there. The preparations to bring back Syria were foolproof. The Empress dispatched the Empire's elite knights. Evangeline's mother was actually willing to help, letting me, a collateral member, command them. This feeling, it's like I am the true crown prince. Ludwig raised the corners of his mouth, commanding the Imperial Knights, charging at the front. I am the true crown prince. Since childhood, Alfred has always suppressed me, whether it was the title of crown prince or appearance in martial arts. Alfred's existence is like a mockery of me. Now he has even stolen my bride. Ludwig advanced towards Alfred, filled with inferiority and killing intent. Ludwig suddenly reined in his horse, pupils contracting in shock. A carriage appeared in his sight. That is Alfred's carriage. Ludwig raised his arm and pointed forward. Knights, carriage, everyone listen to orders. Stop that carriage. Alfred and Syria must be inside. To actually cross the plains so ostentatiously, without even planning to hide their movements. Ludwig spurred his horse to accelerate. This arrogance is the cause of your death today. As long as I kill you, I will eventually become the crown prince. Ludwig pulled the reins hard. The warhorse neighed and stood across the front of the wheels, forcibly stopping the carriage. Ludwig reached out to lift the curtain. Syria, do you know how hard I've looked for you? Ludwig froze abruptly, pupils trembling violently. Inside the carriage, it was empty, only expensive velvet cushions. What on earth happened? The Empress's palace. Clang, clang. This is the new tea just delivered. Evangeline picked up the teacup. Okay, Mother, the more I think about it, the more uneasy I feel. This kind of thing never happened in the original work. In the original plot, Alfred failed to suppress his madness, eventually dying young. Syria handed everything of the family to Ludwig. Then she also died. 2 people with no interaction actually staged a kidnapping marriage drama. Is it because Syria is the female lead? Is the story forcibly guiding towards a happy ending? Evangeline put down the teacup. Must calm down. I'm a transmigrator. Alpert possesses the power to change fate. At this rate, Ludwig's plan to inherit the Delphina family might fail. What's worse is, my blueprint to control everything through that man will collapse. There's one more thing that bothers me. I've been thinking about Alpert. Syria is just a female lead who only knows how to cry. Ludwig is just a mediocre male lead. Before transmigration, I only skimmed through the original work. Truly frustrating. Those protagonists have no appeal to me. As for that Alpert who barely appeared, he couldn't stir any ripples in my heart. After entering this world, I discovered the Alpert in reality is actually so charming, even knowing the original plot. Even though he attracts me so much, I know very well that no one can save him from madness. From the moment I realized that, I gave up the idea of possessing him. To desire a man destined to die mad, it's meaningless. Evangeline suddenly clenched her skirt. However, this feeling is strange. Alpert actually became another woman's man. Isabel put down her teacup. Evan, stop it quickly. You will bite that beautiful lip. Evangeline suddenly released her teeth. Mother, can this matter really be resolved smoothly? Isabel smiled with eyes closed. Why worry so much? This situation is actually advantageous for us. That absurd kidnapping engagement gave us the most sufficient reason for action. Isabel sat upright in the chair. Thanks to those rumors we spread, their reputation has already fallen to rock bottom. No one will acknowledge that couple, not even His Majesty the Emperor. Don't be bothered by such trivial matters. My daughter, you are destined to become the Empress in the future. Evangeline's eyes widened slightly. Isabel put down the teacup. I will make you the true Empress of the Empire. You are my most precious treasure. Evangeline lowered her eyelids, responding softly. Yes, Mother, I'm very grateful that you think of me. Truly ridiculous. She hasn't even noticed that her biological daughter's soul has been swapped. Although I can't be completely at ease. But she is the Empress after all. I can only choose to believe her. The heavy palace doors were pushed open violently. An attendant rushed into the hall with a panicked expression. Your Majesty the Empress, Crown Prince Alpert, and Miss Delphina, they have already entered the Imperial Palace. The two looked towards the door simultaneously. The palace courtyard was crowded with people. Servants stopped to watch one after another. Look over there. Is that His Highness who has been missing for a week? And that young lady, are they the protagonists of that kidnapping wedding? I heard His Highness went mad to do such a thing. Syria sat on horseback, letting her long hair brush past her cheeks in the wind. I can hear every word you are saying. Syria closed her eyes. The speed at which rumors spread is beyond imagination. Alpert actually intends to pass through that gate. The white horse stopped in front of the magnificent building. That was the Gate of Glory, the largest entrance in the Imperial Palace. Only those with special status could pass. Opened only for imperial parades or national heroes. Demanding to open the gate in this situation is simply crazy. The gatekeeper was sweating profusely. Why, Your Highness the Crown Prince? Alpert looked down at the guard below. Since you still recognize me, then don't make me waste my breath. Open the gate. The gatekeeper's face was pale. Your Highness, where exactly have you been during this time? And who is this beside you? Alpert lowered his head slightly. Don't make me repeat it a second time. How long do you intend to block us? Blocking the path of the Crown Prince and the Crown Princess. Satisfied? Syria closed her eyes and smiled. Of course, although it was more intense than expected, but the result far exceeded expectations. Declaring to everyone, we are already husband and wife. This parade is perfect. How long are we going to ride? Riding horses is usually prohibited inside the Imperial Palace. Alpert tightened his arms, leaning close to Syria's ear. Probably until we get inside. After all, we must show off enough according to your wish. This is the reason you haven't asked to dismount, right? Syria's breath hitched. He is sharp enough to be frightening. Syria looked towards the end of the corridor. Her gaze locked onto a distant figure. Who is that? Evangeline. Why is that woman here? Is it because I haven't seen her for too long? Why am I so uneasy? Before I died in my past life. Evangeline, that mocking face surfaced in my mind again. I must believe that I can escape her control. Alpert sensed something was wrong, reaching out to hold her waist. Syria, are you okay? Your body is shaking badly. Syria suddenly came back to her senses, crashing into those red eyes. Alpert brought his face close to hers. It doesn't look like you have a fever, but I have never seen your face look so bad. Syria felt the strength at her waist. So he's been holding me tightly since just now. Is it because of worry? But I cannot show weakness here. Syria forced herself to sit up straight. I'm Euphina. You don't need to worry. Having come this far, I absolutely cannot reveal any flaws. Alpert's tone allowed no doubt. No, your condition is obviously terrible. Syria looked up abruptly. What? I clearly said I'm fine. Alpert suddenly exerted force, carrying her entire body horizontally in his arms, landing steadily from the horse. Syria let out a gasp of surprise, her hands instinctively clutching his lapel. What are you doing? My bride is so weak. I really can't rest assured letting you continue to ride. Why do this suddenly? Why say such embarrassing words? Evangeline's pupils constricted, so he did it on purpose, to act in front of that woman. Syria buried her face in his shoulder, feeling the rise and fall of the other's chest. My frantic heartbeat actually calmed down. Evangeline stared at the retreating figures. The smile at the corner's peer closed connection without sending complete message body. Was that little brat Syria mocking me just now? Evangeline stared at the retreating figures. That idiot Ludwig couldn't even handle something as simple as taking back the bride. This was supposed to be the perfect script. Isabel walked to her daughter's side. She lowered her voice. Since things have come to this, we can only use this as leverage to expel that woman. Evangeline trembled suddenly. She remained silent. Isabel let out a cold snort. Have you still not let go of those foolish feelings? Didn't I tell you to give up? Alpert will never be a puppet at someone's mercy like Ludwig. Put away those trivial emotions and focus on handling the trouble in front of us. Evangeline lowered her eyes. I know, those feelings are just fleeting clouds. I've known that for a long time. But Alpert is clearly a man no woman can possess. Why does it have to be Syria? It's not fair. She's clearly just the female lead in the original novel. The current plot has been completely distorted. This is too dangerous. At this rate, will I be the one to meet a tragic end? I can't just sit here and wait for death. I must temporarily set aside the original plan. I won't just watch everything happen. The doors of the Imperial Audience Hall swung open. Alpert led Syria inside. Their boots stepped across the long red carpet, the sound echoing through the empty hall. The Emperor sat on the high throne, looking down at the two below. You've finally come. Syria stopped and slowly bowed. Daughter of Delphina, wife of Crown Prince Alpert, Syria greets your majesty. May the great Altinus bless you. The emperor turned his face. Miss Delphina, you were originally betrothed to my nephew. I personally bestowed the engagement gifts and even visited to congratulate you the day before the wedding. Yet you ignored the imperial authority and forced this marriage. How was this different from openly showing contempt for me? The emperor suddenly swung his right fist, slamming it heavily onto the throne's armrest. Syria looked straight ahead. No, your majesty, neither I nor his highness the crown prince ever intended to show contempt for imperial authority. The emperor leaned forward. If so, did the crown prince go mad, causing this accident? Miss Delphina, do not hide anything. Tell the truth. If this predatory marriage was against your will, I will help you return to your original position. Syria lowered her head slightly. No, your majesty, I do not wish to annul the marriage now. Furthermore, the marriage between His Highness the Crown Prince and me is already an established fact. The Emperor's pupils contracted. What did you say? Have you already completed the wedding ceremony and even received the blessing of the temple? Why on earth did you commit such an absurd act? Syria's lips curled up. Because of love, of course. His Highness fell in love with me at first sight, so he chose a predatory marriage. Just like the founding Emperor Altinus in ancient times when he first saw Princess Estrid. He possessed her regardless of everything. The Emperor shuddered. In other words, this is our reenactment of that legend. The dragon snatched away his princess. That is our official position. The Emperor narrowed his eyes. Official position? Do you mean the truth does not match your excuse? Syria took a step forward. Of course, your majesty, do you really think Ludwig is suitable to inherit the throne? The Emperor shuddered. What makes you think I would think that? Syria gazed at the throne at the end of the carpet. Because you are the one who arranged my marriage with the Grand Duke. Your Majesty, unless you want to support him as a bargaining chip to counter the Crown Prince, you would never hand the Duchy of Delphina over to him. Syria lifted her skirt, her shoes clicking sharply on the stone floor. Your Majesty, how much do you know about your nephew? The Emperor's brow furrowed. Are you accusing me of not being a good judge of character? Syria closed her eyes. I have never served your Majesty closely, so I have nothing to say about other matters. But I know Ludwig very well. He is definitely not the kind of person who can become emperor. You say he is unsuitable? Explain in detail. Syria nodded slightly. Yes, in my long-term observation, he is narrow-minded and cannot tolerate others. In his bones, he harbors an inferiority complex toward the crown prince. His ambition is vast, but his ability cannot match it. Such a man can never achieve great things. For example, once in the internal management of the Duchy of Delphina, something happened. Syria spread her palms. A territory manager once embezzled public funds, leading to the neglect of farmland irrigation. However, Ludwig rehired him the following year. The emperor leaned back. Why was that? The new candidate refused to raise taxes in a year of poor harvest. But Ludwig held leverage over that corrupt manager. So the two reached a deal and forcibly increased the tax rate. Syria's gaze was cold. If that is how matters of the duchy are handled, how much worse would it be for the entire empire? Your Majesty knows very well how he would rule the country if he became emperor. The emperor sat in his high position, silently looking down at Syria. The emperor tapped the armrest with his finger, making a dull sound. Indeed, your point is very persuasive, but my judgment will not change. Do you think a person who decides public affairs based on greed is suitable to be emperor? The emperor sat in his high position, falling into a long silence. Even so, he is more suitable than a madman who kills people indiscriminately. Syria watched the emperor. Just as I expected, your Majesty thinks this way because you are worried about the crown prince's madness. Syria took Alpert's hand. If that's the case, you don't need to worry at all. The emperor leaned forward. Don't need to worry? What do you mean by that? Syria looked directly into the emperor's eyes. Regarding the crown prince's madness, from the moment he met me, it was completely resolved. On the night before the wedding, I dreamed of Lord Altinus. The founding dragon personally bestowed a blessing and left me a divine oracle. Syria took Alpert's arm. As long as I stay by his side, the descendant of the dragon will never be consumed by madness. The emperor's pupils contracted. Do you expect me to believe such words now? If that is the truth, do you dare to swear before a sacred relic or a priest to guarantee that what you say is true? Syria interlocked her fingers with Alpert's. Whether I really received the dragon's blessing. Syria's lips curled slightly. This is of course a lie. To persuade the emperor, I fabricated an excuse. There is no dragon's blessing in this world. Although I can indeed calm Alpert's madness, the divine oracle is just a fiction. The emperor looked down at the young woman below the steps. I'll ask you one more time. Can you prove that you have received the dragon's blessing? Celia straightened her spine. There's no need to summon a priest, nor to use sacred relics. Lord Altinus promised that he would personally present the evidence. The emperor turned his face, his gaze sharp. Evidence? What evidence are you referring to? Celia looked directly at the emperor. To show you that evidence, I have one more request. Please allow us to use Altinus Hall to hold our wedding in 1 month and 7 days. The emperor's eyes widened suddenly. Do you understand what Altinus Hall means? Celia bowed slightly. How could any imperial citizen not know? It's the sacred place where your Majesty's coronation was held, named after the founding dragon. It is the empire's most important and most beautiful hall. Celia's lips curved upward. Even for the crown prince, using that place as a wedding reception venue would be extremely absurd. But precisely because of that, we must use Altinus Hall to show the world this marriage and obtain your Majesty's formal recognition. The emperor extended his palm, gesturing for her to come closer. Celia walked toward the throne, her footsteps echoing in the empty hall. This exceeds my expectations. Has she seen through me? The emperor waved his arm, and a transparent membrane instantly enveloped their surroundings. This is a barrier of light that prevents sound from leaking out. Now tell me the truth. Are you doing this because someone has threatened you? Celia looked directly at the emperor. I have no ulterior motives. I am simply following the will of the great founding dragon. The emperor lowered his head, his palm pressing against his forehead. Do you think I would believe such words? Celia watched the emperor. He looked as if he had a splitting headache. This expression, full of anxiety and doubt, actually gave me a glimmer of hope. Emotionally, the emperor doesn't hate Arpad. He's just afraid of making a madman emperor because one wrong decision could destroy the entire empire. recalling the regret I saw in the Emperor's eyes in my past life. If this paternal love still exists, perhaps that child can be saved. Celia stepped forward, placing her hand over the Emperor's. Your Majesty, you cherish and love His Highness the Crown Prince more than anyone else, don't you? The Emperor's body stiffened, and he let out a short gasp. What exactly are you trying to say? The truth is, Your Majesty desires to save your son more than anyone else. I understand this very clearly. Celia released her hand. So please give me one chance. I will prove to you that I can protect Your Majesty's precious son. The Emperor's lips trembled slightly as he silently gazed ahead. Walter, Walter, a woman's voice echoed in the void. Please save him. Don't let our son repeat my mistakes. You must save him. Celia pushed open the heavy doors and left the great hall, exhaling deeply. The audience is finally over. The Emperor's voice echoed in the hall. In 1 month, I will open Altinus Hall. I have matters to discuss with Arpid. His wife may withdraw first. I actually received his permission. Most importantly, this is the first time the Emperor has referred to me as Arpid's wife. Celia gently touched her chest, exhaling deeply. I thought convincing the Emperor would be the biggest obstacle, but now it's finally resolved smoothly. If I can change the present situation step by step like this. Urgent footstep approached. Celia, Ludwig rushed forward quickly. I finally found you. Do you know how worried I was? Celia stopped in her tracks. Ludwig. Ludwig reached out to grab Celia. We must return home immediately. Come with me now. Celia's whole body trembled. I absolutely don't want to run into him. My body is completely frozen. I can't make any sound. Don't come near me, you monster. I should shout loudly like that, but my throat feels blocked. Just seeing Ludwig's face, those painful memories become crystal clear. A carriage is already prepared outside, so come with me quickly. Arpid suddenly grabbed Ludwig's wrist and flung it away forcefully. Ludwig, from now on you must show him respect. He pulled Celia's shoulder, bringing her into his embrace. She is my bride. Ludwig stepped forward forcefully, erupting in an angry roar. Arpid, how dare you show your face here? This is utter nonsense. Celia Delphina is my wife. His Majesty the Emperor will punish you for kidnapping my wife. Arpid's lips curved upward. Your wife? Then in this room, where exactly is your wife? Ludwig clutched his wrist and let out a scream. My hand. Arpid looked down at the man kneeling on the ground. Ridiculous. The only reason you demand a wife is to invoke His Majesty's name. Don't you feel ashamed? Arpid looked down at the woman in his arms. Celia, tell me, should I break his legs too? Ludwig knelt on the ground, gasping, calling out brokenly. Celia. Celia looked at his red pupils. No. This is the palace. Ludwig suddenly raised his head, his eyes full of fury. His Majesty will never tolerate this. Arpid, you barbarian. What exactly will His Majesty not tolerate? He has already permitted us to use Altinus Hall as our wedding venue. Arpid held Celia close. If my wife allows it, I can even send you an invitation. Ludwig collapsed to the ground. What did you say? That's impossible. His Majesty would never do such a thing. Arpid ignored him and turned to leave with Celia in his arms. Evangeline blocked their path. Brother Arpid, I heard a rumor. Is what you just said true? Celia observed Evangeline's distorted expression. I've never seen her show such an expression before. Even upon learning of her stepbrother's sudden marriage, she shouldn't be this shocked. Is this a good thing for her? After all, she originally wanted to pursue Ludwig, and I recognize that expression, that look of disbelief mixed with anger, yet also revealing desire. That's the expression she wore in my past life when looking at the Empress's throne. That was the only thing she truly desired. Celia's eyes widened suddenly. Could it be that Evangeline's true love is actually Arpid? In the despair of my past life, Evangeline looked down at me. Falling in love isn't a sin, is it? I truly love that man, so there was nothing I could do. I am sorry, Celia. The look in her eyes then was completely different from now. Back then, she had merely obtained a toy she fancied. If her feelings for Arpid are real, if everything she took from me wasn't true love, then what did all my past sacrifices amount to? That's right, Miss Ruth. Fortunately, His Majesty has blessed us and even permitted us to use Altinus Hall. Evangeline froze in place, her eyes widening sharply. Celia's lips curved into a slight smile. I believe His Majesty has also recognized our feelings. I feel extremely happy to be able to share this joyful news with Miss Ruth first. Evangeline stood frozen, her facial muscles twitching slightly. Then, Arpid turned, his cloak sweeping through the air. We failed. We'll take our leave first. As for meeting with the crown princess, we'll postpone it until next time. My wife looks tired. Evangeline stood in the empty hall, her fingers digging into her palms. Celia stood in the center of the bedroom, looking up at Arpid. Your Highness, doesn't your arm hurt? Arpid unfastened his cloak clasp. My arm is fine. Is that the first thing you wanted to ask? Celia lowered her eyes. You've been holding me since we entered the palace. I couldn't help but worry. Celia showed a smile. I'm relieved to hear you're all right. Also, thank you for everything you did today, including the matter with Ludwig. Arpid paused his movements. He was just an eyesore. Speaking of which, does Arpid know Evangeline's feelings? Judging by how he cooperated with me earlier, he doesn't seem particularly interested in her. Celia fell into thought. I'm also curious how Arpid views Evangeline. Does he merely see her as a stepsister? Arpid crossed his arms and looked down at Celia. Since you've finished your questions, I think it's my turn to ask now. Did you truly receive Altinus's blessing? I didn't hear about this when I accepted your commission. Celia froze in place. This is bad. That was just a lie I made up on the spot to deal with the Emperor. How should I explain this? Arpid leaned closer. Is this the reason you claimed in the underground crypt that you could make me Emperor? That so-called blessing. To what extent can you actually use it? Celia suddenly shrank back. Of course it's a lie. How could the god Altinus bestow a blessing upon someone like me? Arpid straightened up, just as I expected. Lying comes so naturally to you. Celia averted her gaze, defending herself quietly. I had no choice at the time. But the result was good, wasn't it? We did obtain the hall for our banquet because of it. I must be more careful with my words from now on. I absolutely cannot anger him with careless remarks. When facing this man, I can't let my guard down for even a moment. Celia raised her head again, but it's not entirely fabricated either. I do have a way to prevent you from losing your sanity. That's why you accepted my commission, isn't it? Indeed. We'll discuss that matter later. Arpid suddenly grabbed Celia's waist and pulled her forcefully into his embrace. But there's something I've been wanting to ask you. What is this scent emanating from you? Celia held her breath. Scent? He lowered his head, bringing his nose close to Celia's neck. I'm familiar with all the perfumes in the Empire, but this is the first time I've smelled this scent on you. The problem is this scent makes me feel very strange. This scent makes me want to devour you. Celia's body shuddered violently. Devour me? Has his madness already begun to manifest? I don't know what he's talking about. Scent? I must stay calm. I absolutely cannot be deceived by his appearance. Celia stiffly turned her neck. I understand. Your tastes are quite unique. I knew you suffered from madness, but I didn't realize you also had cannibalistic tendencies. Arpid released his grip and straightened up. I don't have such pathological preferences. Celia patted her chest and exhaled deeply. Oh, is that true? Because you just said I look delicious, so I assumed that. Celia's lips curved upward slightly. Since that's not the case, that's good. You'll soon become emperor and receive the love of all your subjects. If rumors spread that you eat people, that would be troublesome. I finally managed to deflect that. Not knowing when his madness will strike is truly terrifying. Arpid remained silent for a long time. Can that love only be obtained from subjects? Celia tilted her head, confusion in her eyes. If you govern the empire well, you'll naturally gain the trust of other nations as well. Arpid drew closer again. No, something is still missing. I lack the love of those closest to me. Though I am the crown prince, I'm also your husband, so I cannot be without my wife's love. Arpid leaned close to her face. I want an answer. Will you promise to give your husband trust and love? Why is he suddenly acting like this? Isn't this obvious? After all, everyone knows we're husband and wife. We shouldn't embarrass each other. Arpid let out a soft snort. If your words are true, then from now on, you may only tell me the truth. No lies are permitted. Celia's eyes widened sharply, her breathing stopping instantly. Then tell me, you claimed you could prevent me from going mad and that so-called blessing of Altinus. Are these two things truly unrelated? I see. He suspects I'm hiding something, so he's deliberately testing me for my secrets. Using that face to manipulate me. I almost fell for it. Celia straightened her back abruptly. They have absolutely no connection. Haven't I already told you? That was just evidence I fabricated on the spot to get His Majesty the Emperor to agree to our marriage. Being granted use of Altinus Hall itself represents His Majesty's recognition. That's already sufficient. Arpid stopped in his tracks. But didn't you tell the Emperor you would show him proof of the blessing? How do you plan to handle that? That's a secret. Don't you have any secrets yourself? Celia rested her chin on one hand and blinked her right eye. In fact, including that matter, everything is a secret. Arpid crossed his hands. A woman with too many secrets is not my type. Celia lifted her skirt. Oh my, then it seems I must work harder in other areas. Of course I must keep secrets. I can't very well say I lived in the future and ended up dying miserably. However, to use your own words against you, a husband must also give his wife trust. Arpid stood still. Trust? Do you truly believe that girl's words? You even went so far as to commit the mad act of kidnapping her for marriage. Arpid spoke, his own voice uncertain. The Emperor suddenly leaned forward, his voice echoing in the empty hall. What? You did such an absurd thing without being certain? Arpid lowered his eyelids. Your Highness, I can guarantee to safely place you on the throne without you losing your sanity. Celia's figure surfaced in his mind. That was indeed utterly absurd, with no basis or evidence to support it. Arpid raised his head. But if that woman is by my side, I feel that at least I won't end up like my mother. I won't go mad. The Emperor fell silent. Is it the reason? Arpid stood straight, light falling on the metal at his shoulder. Even knowing it was reckless, I still carried out that abduction. Several days later, in the Empress's palace, several noble women strolled through the courtyard. Miss Delphina is more capable than I imagined. She just entered the palace and already obtained the right to use Altinus Hall. Isn't it because His Majesty's heart favors his son? A noble woman stopped by the fountain, turning her head toward her companion. What do you think, Viscountess? You've been quiet for a while. Edith Philin covered her face with a light laugh. I haven't thought carefully about it yet. I can't speak carelessly now. After all, people in the palace are divided into two factions supporting the Crown Prince and Grand Duke Ludwig respectively. If I spread rumors that cause either side to fall, it would be a disaster. Since His Majesty has already recognized Delphina, shouldn't we change how we address her? Let's test the waters first. Evangeline entered with her attendants. So, how do you plan to address Miss Delphina? Edith whirled around. The daughter of Marquis Ruth. Evangeline brushed aside her falling golden hair. Mother is unwell today, so I brought her to greet everyone. The noble women hurriedly curtsied. It's an honor to enter the Empress's palace. Indeed, you're right. Evangeline walked to the center of the group, staring at Edith. Rather than that, you should answer my question first. How should we address Miss Delphina? Edith retreated backward, opening her mouth hesitantly. Well, since she has already married the Crown Prince, shouldn't we call her Your Highness the Crown Princess? Evangeline turned her face, shadow covering half her cheek. Why would you say such a thing? How terrifying. Even though it was a despicable marriage achieved through kidnapping, should everyone accept it without question and call her Crown Princess? I truly feel sorry for Brother Ludwig. Evangeline covered her face and wept, her body trembling slightly. The surrounding noble women rushed forward to support her. Edith stood frozen in place. I'm sorry, I didn't mean it that way. Madam, would you even call her that in front of Grand Duke Ludwig, who had his bride stolen? How much more pain do you want to inflict on the Grand Duke? Moreover, His Majesty hasn't officially announced approval of the marriage, has he? Though he permitted use of Altinus Hall for a banquet, that's different from recognizing the marriage. Evangeline wiped the tears from the corners of her eyes with her fingertips. My mother detests people who curry favor with the powerful. Edith stood frozen. I was just thinking about how to address her. It seems Mother is also very worried about the hurt brother has suffered. Edith bowed repeatedly, her face pale. No, this is a misunderstanding. I didn't mean it that way. Two maids restrained her. Please forgive me. Please give me a chance to explain directly to Her Majesty the Empress. Everyone, I apologize for this disturbance. Thanks to all of you, my mood has improved considerably. A noble woman raised her fan to cover the lower half of her face. How is Grand Duke Ludwig doing? He must be very distressed. Evangeline lowered her eyes. My brother's emotional wounds are the deepest. Mother is also deeply worried about this. That's why Mother feels she simply cannot attend the banquet at Altinus Hall. The noble woman's fan in her hand suddenly trembled. This was a warning. Don't linger where the Empress is absent. No woman in high society would dare do such a thing. Evangeline's lips curved upward. Now, they should understand. Your Highness, I have something to report. As you instructed, I investigated recent trade trends and prepared the relevant materials. First, the noteworthy parts of the audit results are Arpid sat behind the desk, one hand supporting his chin. How annoying. That woman has too many secrets. When she speaks, it's always like she's toying with people's hearts. This way of hiding behind jokes while revealing nothing is truly unpleasant. Arpid's fingers tapped on the desktop, producing dull sounds. His attendant stopped reporting. If you could give your opinion on these materials, but why don't I have any desire to kill her and eliminate her? This is strange. Jurgen adjusted his glasses, looking at Arpid before him. Your Highness, what exactly do you mean by strange? Arpid now bowed his head. I'm wondering that myself. Jurgen set down the documents in his hands. One thing is certain. Due to your deep contemplation just now, you didn't hear a single word of my report. Arpid turned his head. Report it again. Jurgen reopened the records. Then I'll start with the news you're most interested in, regarding Miss Delphina's recent activities. Jurgen pushed up his frames. As you instructed, I've assigned reliable people to monitor Delphina. Her every move is under control. Arpid made a sound through his nose. Also, this form of address, Miss Delphina, sounds truly irritating. Could you change to calling her Crown Princess? But His Majesty the Emperor hasn't issued an official decree appointing her as Crown Princess, so it's difficult to call her that at present. There's one more thing I'd like to ask. Was that kidnapping-style wedding not merely to achieve your goal, but because you've truly fallen in love? Even love at first sight? Arpid turned, his gaze sharp. What if that were the case? Jurgen reached into his coat and withdrew an item. If so, it seems it's time to bring this out. Jurgen suddenly pulled out a letter. This is my letter of resignation. If that's true, your Highness's madness must have relapsed. I need to seek employment elsewhere. Arpid snapped his fingers. A flame leapt from his fingertips, instantly consuming the paper in mid-air. Jurgen watched the ashes fall. My resignation letter. What are you doing? Arpid sat behind the desk. You brought another one anyway. Jurgen lowered his head. Though that's true, the problem is your Highness knows me too well. What kind of magic did that woman use to take the keys to Altinus Hall from His Majesty the Emperor? Arpid lowered his eyelids. I don't know either. Celia and the Emperor created a barrier and whispered within it, after which Altinus Hall fell into her hands. Jurgen adjusted his glasses. It sounds like she brainwashed His Majesty. What's more ridiculous is that this doesn't seem entirely impossible. Jurgen looked at Arpid. The truth is, we'll observe her while keeping our guard up and make judgments accordingly. Until then, should we continue calling her Miss Delphina? Jurgen lowered his head, adjusting his cuffs. Then let's call her the mistress of the ivory bedroom. That should be acceptable. Arpid closed his eyes. As you wish. Celia sat on the sofa, watching the woman crying before her. Please calm down. Viscountess Phillen. Edith's shoulders trembled as she made broken, gasping sounds. I've already explained many times. I truly didn't mean it that way. What should I do now? Celia approached gently, stroking her back. Her Majesty the Empress will soon have a change of heart. Edith raised her head. I only hope what you say is true. Madam, this must be very sudden for you as well. Yet you brought me here and comforted me like this. I am truly grateful. I discovered this wandering, weeping woman in the palace and brought her here. But I know very well who she is. In my past life's memories, Edith was one of those who betrayed me and pushed me toward destruction. Edith collapsed to the ground, covering her face and wailing. What should I do? I've offended the daughter of a marquis family. If I'm permanently excluded from high society, the exact same thing happened in my past life. Back then, Edith was trembling from losing Evangeline's favor. Celia comforted her kindly. It's all right, madam. Don't worry too much. My past self pitied her, stayed by her side to console her, hoping to become friends with her. The truth is, Phillen's everything was an act. She was Evangeline's spy from the beginning. The scene of being cast out was just to get close to me. Edith would report my every move, passing all intelligence to Evangeline, exactly matching my past life's memories. Edith Phillen, the woman who framed me for crimes and ultimately betrayed me. This time, she seems to have become the bait abandoned by Evangeline. How fitting. Celia tilted her head slightly. If you don't mind, could we become friends? In this life, I'll make you pay for everything you've done. Celia grasped the other's hand. High society is very cruel. I happen to have few friends myself. To have someone as excellent as you, madam, as a friend, that would be wonderful. Edith froze, then showed a radiant smile. Miss, I'm truly so happy. Celia stared at that false smile, a purple glow rising from the depths of her pupils. Keep friends close, but enemies who can serve as bait even closer. The ivory bedroom. Celia looked at Arpid. Your Highness the Crown Prince, there's something I'd like to ask. Arpid turned the pages of his book with a rustling sound. Of course, what is it? Celia watched Arpid. Did you perhaps hear some rumor that my preferred type is intellectual men who wear glasses? So you suddenly put on glasses? Did you hear that rumor? Arpid set down the book in his hands. What kind of strange rumor is that? Celia approached Arpid. You urgently summoned me. I rushed here, and you're sitting here like a model. People with dragon bloodline would never wear glasses due to poor eyesight. Arpid pushed up his glasses. Are you mocking me for wearing glasses to cater to your preferences? Celia put her hands on her hips. Lately, I feel your highness has been using many men's beauty products. More than that, what's with that founding history book in your hands? Arpid held up the thick black leather book. There's a passage here I like. Shall I read it to you? Arpid read in a low voice. The dragon once said this. My only flower and bride. The moment I saw you, I knew you could make me whole, so I cannot resist my instinct. I must claim you as mine. Celia held her breath. Just how long has he been looking at me? Arpid looked down at the book. I've liked this passage since I was a child. When you were young, usually, boys prefer war stories or heroic epics. Is there a special reason why you like this part? I also once hoped that such a being would exist, appearing by my side, someone who could make me whole. Arpid's fingertips brushed the cover. I thought, if that person truly existed, perhaps I too could overcome this madness. If that person truly appeared, would I be like Altinus and recognize them at a single glance? What a lovely person that would be. Arpid lowered his eyelids. If that person appeared too late, the pain of waiting might turn into pure hatred. I've even had such thoughts, but I have a premonition that we will meet soon. No, perhaps we've already met. Celia held her breath, cold sweat sliding down her cheek. It felt as if he had already seen through everything. Impossible. Arpid couldn't have realized it already, could he? The fact that I am that person, the bride who possesses the power to calm the dragon's madness. It's a cliche, but it truly exists in world history. Why do dragons always kidnap princesses? There are usually two reasons. Either they're obsessed with beauty and want to marry them, or they want to devour the precious princess. These two reasons stem from the same source. That is the dragon's bride. She can make the dragon's power and body become even stronger, as if a part that was originally one is being restored. To reclaim that fragment, the dragon will possess the bride in various ways. Some dragons choose to spend the rest of their lives together. Others choose to devour their partner, to enhance their own power. Although the methods vary, the desire for the bride remains the same. Even if he had to make an enemy of the entire country, even if the war lasted for years, Artemis never gave up on Astrid because she was the dragon's bride, worth risking everything for. I learned the truth in my third life. At that time, I was reduced to a death row inmate, charged with adultery and treason. Before the execution, I was sent to the master of the magic tower. Sirius saw that man in the exile procession. That was the end of Ludwig's conspiracy. Alpert stood in the shadows, his eyes flashing with red light. The Tower Master's only interest at the time was Alpert, how to utilize that extreme madness, how to control that power. The Tower Master continued his cruel experiments, pairing innocent people with Alpert. Syria was also used as a test subject. Her arms were hoisted high by chains, imprisoned deep within the stone walls. In her third life, she experienced the torture of near death dozens of times. Her consciousness had long since shattered. I finally understand. Tower Master Gasper spread his hands. Alpert didn't attack you solely because you possess a special constitution. Look at him now. He has absolutely no intention of attacking you. Alpert was chained by the neck, leaning forward and growling, his eyes filled with red light. Yet he remained in place. He needs your special constitution. That's why he spared your life. Unlike those others, he tore apart and slaughtered. Hearing those words, the originally terrifying Crown Prince looked completely different in my eyes. Even in that moment, Alpert was already a monster, but as an unstable half-dragon, he should have followed his instincts and devoured you, to become stronger through your flesh and blood. Gasper walked up to Syria, grabbed her hair, and forced her to look up. But he didn't eat you until the very end. This is truly strange. Now that I know how the princess can coexist with the dragon, I will study you more deeply from now on. Leather shoes clicked against the stone floor. Gasper stopped walking. From now on, what should I call you? Gasper lifted Syria's chin, his fingertips grazing her bloodied cheek. Dragon's bride, there is no name more fitting for you. My third life ended half a year later, dying in an execution. I approached him proactively in this life because I remember that past. My existence could become a bargaining chip because he didn't attack me so easily before. If my value exceeds expectations, it might put me in danger, but I must seize the initiative. I hadn't planned to bring up that term first. Dragon's Bride. However, things didn't go according to plan. How should I handle the current situation? Syria raised her right hand. Excuse me, you may not have realized my identity yet. I must stay calm. In this ambiguous situation, facing it head-on is the best strategy. Alperd, Mr. Astrid. Alperd crossed his arms over his chest. Have you decided not to call me your highness anymore? Syria patted her chest, breathing a long sigh of relief. That's a relief. Alperd frowned slightly. What is a relief? Syria leaned in closer, lowered her voice. I thought your madness was acting up again. It seems it hasn't. That's truly fortunate. Alperd fell silent. He took a step forward, his leather shoes tapping heavily on the stone slabs. If you were in my position, what would you do? Syria stopped moving, tilting her head slightly. What did you say? Alperd walked up to her. If the person you've been waiting for bitterly finally appeared, would you fall in love with that person? Or would you hate them to the bone because of the pain caused by the long wait? Syria fell silent, her lips parting slightly. That question, he smiled, his eyes curving into crescents. That kind of thing isn't for me to decide. Deciding whether to love or hate that person depends entirely on you. Your Highness. Syria took a step forward instead. On the contrary, I'm curious. What exactly do you intend to do? Your Highness, you're always good at dodging the question. No, that's not an answer at all. Please tell me, if it were you, what would you do? Fortunately, Alperd doesn't seem to know yet that I am the one he has been waiting for. But to ask such a question in this situation, could it be, is that person really so precious to him? Why? Is this question difficult to answer? Alperd spoke slowly. I think I would hate that person. Alperd pushed up his glasses. Falling in love the moment we meet means I can't even control my own emotions. If such a thing were forced upon me, I could only choose to hate. Syria raised her hand to cover her lips, letting out a soft chuckle. That's really reassuring. Since I'm not that kind of person, it means you have no reason to hate me without cause, right? Alperd fell silent. Perhaps that is true. The next morning, sunlight streamed into the towering spire chapel. A makeup brush swept across Syria's cheek. I couldn't close my eyes all night. That man stared at me the whole night. I couldn't sleep at all. Syria sat before the vanity mirror, letting the maids apply foundation, lowering her eyelids to hide her fatigue. Two maids leaned together, whispering. Miss looks very tired. It seems their relationship is really intimate. Syria closed her eyes. It's fine if they misunderstand, but there are more important things right now. You said your name is Ishia, right? Crown Princess. I want to hear news from Delphina. How are Annie and Sir Beltran doing there? Ishia stopped what she was doing. Yes, I will report to you. No need to worry about the maid named Annie. Delphina is in a very chaotic state right now. No one has the leisure to trouble her. Syria breathed a sigh of relief. That's good. Then is Sir Beltran safe too? Ishia lowered her voice. Grand Duke Ludwig is currently at Delphina. It is said he has thrown Beltran into the dungeon. Syria's pupils contracted in shock. Renus is imprisoned? That's impossible. Why did this happen? I must bring Annie and Renus here before the situation gets worse. Syria took a deep breath. Send someone to Delphina in my name immediately. Tell them to bring the maid Annie and Sir Renus back. Ishia stopped her movements. Forgive my presumption, but have you received His Highness's permission for this? Whose side are you on exactly? Ishia's heart skipped a beat. His Highness instructed for me to obey your commands. Since that's the case, you are His Highness's person. Syria turned around abruptly, her gaze sharp. Go back to your master. Syria stood up. I don't need His Highness's permission to manage my own people. I have no interest in playing power games with maids. However, Syria looked at the other two maids. You two will replace Ishia and bring Annie and Sir Beltran back. The two maids bowed deeply. Yes, Mississippi, if I'm blocked even in such small matters. Surrounded by Alperd's confidants, I won't be able to move an inch. The most important thing right now is the banquet to be held at Atanas Hall in 1 month. If that banquet isn't held successfully, I will never gain recognition as the Crown Princess. Isabel and Evangeline have publicly declared that anyone who attends the Atanas Hall banquet will be completely ostracized from high society. So I must gather my people as soon as possible. I will completely crush those two. I don't know what to do. I don't have many close friends, and I can't ask Her Majesty the Empress for help. Edith held Syria's hand. Oh my, poor Crown Princess. I will do my best to mobilize everyone I know to attend. As long as you give me the invitations, I will personally distribute them. Sidia Zmilit, you're truly a real friend. A wedding reception hosted by a baroness at Atanas Hall. having a low-ranking noble like Edith beg others to attend. The class of the event will naturally plummet. This is a perfect trap to make everyone mock us. Please make sure to send them to as many people as possible. But if Edith runs to inform Evangeline, my plan will be half successful. Edith stared at the seal. Isn't this the Crown Princess's official seal? Did His Majesty the Emperor authorize you to use it? Syria pressed the back of her hand against her cheek, putting on a troubled expression. Oh no, the marriage hasn't been officially recognized yet. I shouldn't be using it, but the Crown Prince personally brought it to me, saying I could use it as I please. I thought of a few ideas. Would you like to hear my thoughts? Edith leaned closer to Syria. Of course, I would be happy to help. Evangeline's room was brightly lit. She tore open the letter in her hand, letting out a cold laugh. She actually has the guts to use the Crown Princess's seal. Edith stood before the desk. She said the Crown Prince personally gave her the seal and allowed her to use it freely. Evangeline slammed the table and stood up. So what? Only His Majesty the Emperor has the right to authorize the use of the royal seal. Edith agreed repeatedly. That's right, that stupid woman doesn't even know such common sense. She must be afraid that the banquet in a month will be empty, so she plans to use such extreme measures. Extreme measures? She plans to spread rumors that His Majesty the Emperor will attend the reception to attract those wavering nobles. That idiot actually intends to spread fake news. Evangeline let out a cold laugh. If the reception is completely ruined, she will never be officially recognized as the Crown Princess. So she's unscrupulous now. The news has already spread. Attending that banquet is equivalent to social suicide. No noble woman dies. To step foot in Atana's hall, she must be desperate, trying to use that barren brain of hers to struggle in her death throes. Evangeline reached out and pinched the letter paper, tearing it down the middle with force, creating a crisp, ripping sound. Soon, her end will be exactly the same as this invitation. Evangeline released her hand, letting the paper scraps scatter in the air. As the Crown Prince and Syria's reception approached, the social circle was filled with mockery directed at Syria. I heard His Majesty the Emperor will attend the banquet. That is actually fake news concocted by Miss Delphina. She's desperate to get people to attend. Two noble women leaned together whispering, letting out shrill laughter. Imagine Atana's hall completely empty. That would truly be an unprecedented humiliation. Syria covered her mouth with both hands and gasped. The Marchioness of Cunabel suddenly announced, she will hold a ball on the same day. This is unbelievable. Edith stood in front of Syria. The Marchioness of Cunabel is the Empress's confidant. She was granted permission to use the second hall of the Empress's palace. If that happens, our reception will be completely overshadowed. Syria looked out the window anxiously. Don't worry too much, Your Highness. Edith held Syria's hand tightly. I will work harder to distribute the invitations. Please believe in me. Syria let out a sob. Thank you. Thank you so much, Baroness. That stupid woman, crying because her lies backfired. At least the Empress and Evangeline must be thinking that right now. Syria stood by the window, watching the retreating figure below. The Bade is acting more diligently than expected. Thanks to her, the stakes have become higher. I'm really looking forward to the developments ahead. Syria sat on the edge of the bed. What? The butler said. He couldn't send Annie and Beltran over? The maids bowed abruptly, touching their foreheads to the ground. We are terribly sorry, Your Highness. This is our dereliction of duty. Everything is just as I expected. Ludwig still considers himself the master of the Delphina territory. I never expected the butler to easily obey my orders. Although I can't shake Ludwig yet, I will absolutely not let the palace servants trample on me at will anymore. It seems sending Ishia back was worth it. Rather than reorganizing the Crown Prince's palace, purging the Delphina territory is more urgent. I am the sole heir to the Delphina Duchy. Employees who should obey me are being swayed by outsiders. If I can't even handle my own domestic affairs, people will question whether I am qualified to sit on the throne of the Crown Princess. So I must strike first. Syria walked towards the dressing room. I need to change my clothes to see the Crown Prince. Alpert sat behind a large desk, the light illuminating the documents in his hands. An attendant stood before the desk and called out softly, Your Highness, do you intend to just leave it be like this? Alpert leaned back in his chair. I see no reason to intervene. The attendant took a step forward, but Miss Delphina openly drove away your people. This is defying you. How can we trust such a person? Alpert let out a soft chuckle, the quill in his hand scratching across the paper. Quite the opposite. I trust her more now. If she couldn't even distinguish who to keep and who to kick out, she wouldn't be fit to be the Crown Princess. even less fit to be the Empress's opponent. Urgent knocking came from the door. Alperd and the attendant turned their heads towards the entrance simultaneously. Syria pushed the door open and entered, her skirt drawing an arc in the air. "Your Highness." The attendant stared at Syria visiting late at night. Miss Delphina actually came at this time. She must have heard about the territory's refusal and came to ask His Highness to solve it for her. Syria walked up to Alperd, a smile on her face. "Your Highness, I have a favor to ask you." The attendant stood aside, watching coldly. "If you dare pester His Highness for domestic affairs, I will submit my resignation immediately." Syria bowed her head slightly. "I'm afraid Your Highness will have to sleep alone tonight, so I came specifically to inform you in advance. That is quite disappointing for me. May I ask the reason?" Syria looked up. "I'm going back to my maiden home." Alperd raised an eyebrow slightly. "Maiden home? You mean the Delphina territory?" Syria reached out and tucked her long hair behind her ear. "Yes, I'm going back to clean house." "Oh, I almost forgot about that." "Your Highness?" The attendant was startled, his body freezing in place. Syria leaned in close and placed a kiss on Alperd's cheek. "I wish you a pleasant night without me." Alperd froze in place. Syria stopped walking. "Did you understand? Then I shall take my leave." Syria turned and walked out of the office, her skirt disappearing behind the door. The attendant stood dumbfounded, cold sweat running down his cheek. Such intimate behavior is simply like a couple passionately in love. Did His Highness really fall in love with her at first sight and initiate this predatory marriage? The attendant snapped back to reality, calling out with a trembling voice, "Your Highness? Where are you going?" Alperd stood up, adjusting his coat collar. "Do I have to report my every move to you?" Alperd walked towards the door. "No, I misspoke." The attendant was left alone in the office. Is His Highness really going to follow her? Is this really a marriage out of love? Outside the palace late at night, a carriage stopped before the steps, lights swaying in the darkness. Syria walked down the steps in high heels, the tips of her shoes clicking against the ground. "This is indeed a bit sudden. Thank you for accepting my request so quickly." Mercenary King Gerald, this magic mask that can hide one's appearance, is quite novel to me. However, I'm somewhat disappointed in you. Syria tilted her head slightly, smiling. "Oh my, disappointment only arises when there are expectations. It seems you had high expectations of me. Seeking help to handle domestic affairs. Does that really disappoint you so much?" Alperd turned his head, avoiding Syria's gaze. So you knew that very well." Syria folded her hands on her lap. "This isn't the first time you've tested me. As the first commission, Crown Prince Alperd must be evaluating me, judging if I'm worth the price. I didn't go to reclaim my family's power personally, but immediately sent a request for help. It's only natural he would feel disappointed. But I cannot stop here." Syria's lips curled up. "If the Crown Prince is disappointed in me, then I can only answer that such an emotion was unnecessary from the start." "Why is that?" Syria leaned close to Alperd. "Because I never sought help from the Crown Prince. The person standing before me now is a mercenary King Gerald." Syria withdrew her hand and let out a light chuckle. "I merely hired a mercenary. What reason does the Crown Prince have to be disappointed?" Alperd gazed at Syria. "Playing word games?" Syria covered her lips with the back of her hand, letting out a laugh like silver bells. "Word games? You know better than anyone how important a justified stance is. Recently, the Mercenary King and the Black Mercenary Corps haven't been very active. If there are no results for a long time, your position will also become difficult, right? This is just solving immediate troubles together. I hire mercenaries to deal with private family matters, and the Mercenary King's long-awaited victory will spread far and wide. By tomorrow, everywhere will be bustling with excitement. Alperd won't have to lift a finger to see his political enemies fall, and the Mercenary King will harvest a heroic legend that even the royal family bows down to. I have already placed the flowers in both your hands. As for whether to grasp them, it all depends on your own choice." The palace was brightly lit late at night. Shouts rang out from the window into the night sky. "Your Highness, Grand Duke, please come to your senses. Let go of me, you bastard." Ludwig gripped the butler's collar tightly with both hands. "You also think I'm a pathetic wretch who lost his wife, don't you? You must all be laughing at me behind my back." The old butler clawed helplessly in the air. "No, absolutely not. How would I dare laugh at you?" Ludwig lunged forward again, knocking over the wine bottles on the table. "You bastard. Your Excellency, please stop." The old butler arranged his collar, which had been pulled messy. Watching the dejected Ludwig, I ignored the young Mrs. warning and chose to obey his orders. Yet he treats me like this. Ludwig paced back and forth in the room, breathing heavily. What? Syria said she wants to take Annie and Beltran away? Don't make me laugh. If she wants them that much, let her come personally. Don't tell me you want to stand on Syria's side now. You should have heard the rumors. Syria's banquet is doomed to fail. She will never be recognized as the crown princess. Evangeline put down her teacup. Even if you defect to Syria now, it won't change any outcome. But remember this, neither His Highness the Crown Prince nor Her Majesty the Empress has any intention of accepting traitors. The old butler stood with his head down in the shadows. After the previous Grand Duke and butler passed away suddenly, it was only thanks to Miss Evangeline's promotion that I could take the position of butler for the Delfina family. They turned a blind eye to all the corruption I committed within the territory. I can't turn back now. The old butler walked quickly to the bed, helping up the slumped Ludwig. A maid pushed open the main door, looking panicked. Butler, what is that noise outside? Why is it so loud? Miss Syria has arrived. The old butler turned his head abruptly, his pupils contracting. What? Eldest Mississippi Syria's pink long hair fell over her shoulders, her red eyes scanning the room. Alpert followed closely behind. The old butler froze in place. Why are you here? The Grand Duke has already retired to his room. Syria tilted her head slightly, her red eyes locking onto the butler. Why would I be looking for Ludwig? The butler spread his hands. Well, eldest Mississippi, shouldn't you apologize to the Grand Duke? Syria stopped walking, asking back, me apologize? The butler lowered his head, avoiding Syria's gaze. Yes, although a frail young woman cannot resist, you should still consider His Excellency's feelings first. Having his bride stolen in front of everyone. For a man, there is no humiliation more terrible than this. Have you thought about how sad and humiliated he is? Recently, His Excellency has been drowning his sorrows in alcohol to endure the shame. The butler's tone became forceful. So even now, going to apologize to him is the right thing to do. Syria raised her right hand, her fingertips slicing through the air. Kneel. The butler flinched back. What did you say? What does this mean? Why do this? The butler's knees slammed heavily onto the ground, letting out a painful groan. Eldest miss, what on earth are you doing? Syria looked down at the man kneeling on the floor. Pullman, everything you just said was wrong. Syria took a step forward, the tip of her white shoe pressing against the butler's chin, forcing him to look up. First is the title. I'm not some Grand Duke's daughter. I am the Empire's Crown Princess. No, Your Highness the Crown Princess. I was just worried about the Grand Duke. Syria, turn around. Take him away. Arrest him immediately. Two black-clad guards step forward and grab Pullman. Drag him outside. Let the mercenary stationed outside come in. Take over the internal security of the mansion. Yes, a group of servants knelt on both sides of the corridor, their bodies trembling violently. Your Highness, we were wrongly accused. It was the kitchen staff talking about you behind your back. Pullman is definitely not the only one who defected to Evangeline. Ludwig's spies are already everywhere around him. This entire mansion needs a thorough cleaning. Syria scanned the empty corridor. Half of the hired staff are gone. As expected, take them all away and lock them up. Annie ran from the end of the corridor, shouting loudly, Your Highness, Annie, have you been well during this time? I knew you would definitely come back. Syria reached out and held Annie's shoulders. No need for such great ceremony. We don't need these formalities between us. As long as you are safe, that is enough. Annie shook her head, her expression firm. It is precisely because we are close that we must observe proper etiquette. Annie suddenly remembered something. There's one more thing. Lord Beltran is seriously injured. The Grand Duke locked him in the basement and has been torturing him cruelly. Syria's pupils suddenly contracted. Syria clenched her fists, her nails digging in her palms. No, her red eyes emitted a cold glint. Take me to where Sir Beltran is immediately. Footsteps echoed on the stone stairs. Syria lifted her skirt and rushed into the depths of the dungeon. Lord Beltran, Renus leaned against the wall, red blood seeping through his shirt. He was supported by an assassin in a cloak. Mississippi, it is good that you are safe. To see you again. I am truly relieved. This is impossible. The situation is worse than expected. I didn't expect him to be hurt this badly. Beltran, can you still move? Renus let out a groan. I'm fine. Ugh. Syria rushed forward to support Renus, her hands trembling as they touched his bleeding back. Don't move. Do not move at all. Syria stared at the wound, her purple pupils shaking violently. If not treated immediately, his life will be in danger. This won't do. I must call a doctor. Syria issued urgent orders. Take Lord Beltran to a doctor immediately. Go treat him quickly. Boots stomped heavily on the stone floor. Her skirt dragged through the dim corridor, footsteps echoing in the empty passage. Alfred stopped walking, calling Syria's name in a low voice. "Hey, Syria, are you okay? You knew all this already, right?" Alfred tilted his head slightly. "Knew what?" Syria stipid closer. "Why didn't you tell me? That Lord Beltran was hurt that badly." Alfred stood in the shadows. "Isn't he still alive?" "I merely conveyed the intelligence truthfully." Syria's purple eyes trembled with anger. "I explicitly asked to confirm his injuries. My intent was to get accurate intelligence." Alfred stood at the top of the stairs. "I did tell you accurately that he was alive, just as I said before." Alfred leaned down. "Sending your husband to investigate the safety of a lover. Don't you think that's too much?" Syria froze in place, looking up to meet those cold eyes. "Didn't I tell you clearly? He is not my lover at all." Syria raised her hand and pushed Alfred away, her purple eyes revealing a chill. "Judging Lord Beltran like that is an insult to his honor." Alfred fell silent, his jawline tensing in the shadows. "You say that, but your expression when running towards that night just now was desperate, saying he is an important person. Such words are unconvincing." Syria's purple pupils contracted slightly, her lips pressed tight. Without a word, Syria turned around. "Think what you want, but if Beltran meets with any mishap because of your misunderstanding, I will absolutely not forgive you." Syria pushed open the heavy wooden doors of the main hall. 3 men were running from the other end of the hall. Syria, Ludwig rushed to the front, his silver-white short hair messy from running. "You finally came back." Ludwig opened his arms and lunged forward. "I knew you would come back." An attendant supported him. "Duke, please wake up. Miss Syria is trying to kick us out." Syria stood in the center of the hall, her purple eyes scanning the dregs before her. "So there's still a few scum left, busy tattling, even at a time like this. Truly pathetic." Ludwig stopped walking, gazing at Syria's face. "Syria, were you always this beautiful?" Annie blocked Syria, frowning and staring at the flushed Ludwig. "Speak honestly. How much did you drink?" "Cut the crap. Get out immediately." Ludwig's face was flushed red, swaying as he asked back. "Get out? Go where?" "This is my home." Syria looked straight ahead. "This is not our home. It is my home. You have no reason to stay here anymore. I am already married to the Crown Prince. So from now on, we are strangers." "No." Syria paused for a moment, then corrected herself. "I suppose I should be your sister-in-law now." Ludwig froze in place, his eyes widening, the drunkenness solidifying in an instant. "Don't joke around." Ludwig trembled all over, suddenly swinging his arm forward. "Damn it, you clearly belong to me." A black shadow flashed from the side. Alfred rushed out with rapid steps. He locked Ludwig's throat with one hand. Ludwig let out a painful wail. "Who exactly is he?" Ludwig struggled in Alfred's grasp, his silver-white hair messy. "Let go of me, get lost." "Syria is my woman. She is my possession." Alfred's eyes flickered in the shadows. "Truly immortal. Maybe I should just kill him. I could say it was a duel to protect my wife's honor. At least I should cut out that tongue that dares to covet what is mine." Syria's red lips parted slightly. "Gerald." Alfred bowed his head in response. "Yes, master." Syria stared ahead. "Let go of Ludwig, then go deal with the rest of them." A black-haired attendant shouted at Alfred. "You bastard! How dare you lay a hand on the Grand Duke? Let him go at once." Alfred slowly turned his head. His red eyes burned beneath the mask, black mist emanating from his body. The attendant fell to his knees, begging, "Please spare me. Please have mercy." Alfred waved the black aura, completely drowning out the screams. "I almost lost control. Why do I become so strange whenever he is involved?" Ludwig lay face up on the ground, eyes closed, face pale. A servant screamed in terror. The Grand Duke. "Oh no, he's fainted." The shock must have been too great. Syria looked down at Ludwig on the ground, her purple eyes devoid of emotion. "It seems our guest has fallen asleep. Prepare a carriage for him. Ensure our guest gets home safely." The attendant knelt beside Ludwig, pointing at Syria and shouting, "You are truly cold-blooded. How can you treat the Grand Duke like this? Have you forgotten how good the Grand Duke has always been to you?" Syria stepped forward, her dress dragging on the ground, making a soft friction sound. "I have formally become the crown princess before the main god and the earth goddess." Syria stopped and looked down sideways at the attendant. "Therefore, Ludwig and I no longer have any relationship. Ludwig ate and drank in my house, acting like the master. Is this not an insult?" The servants sent to take over the mansion were driven away by Ludwig directly, unable to even step inside the gate. "Do you still think this isn't an insult?" Syria turned to look at Alfred. What is the punishment for insulting a member of the imperial family? Alpert bowed. Anyone who insults a member of the imperial family shall have a part of their body removed. This man dared to mock the crown princess with his tongue. It is fitting to cut off his tongue as punishment. Syria turned and walked towards the depths of the corridor. Gerald, bring him and follow me. This place is not suitable for bloodshed. Alpert followed closely behind. Yes, the attendant struggled frantically on the ground, his hands clawing at the floor, making a harsh scratching sound. Your Highness, please spare my life. Syria stood with her back to everyone. Suppress him. Alpert bent down and pinned the attendant. Yes, master. The attendant was pinned firmly to the ground, a broken whimper squeezing out of his throat. Grand Duke, save me. Syria vachid quietly. Just like that. Scream a few more times while you still can. Syria turned her face slightly, a cold glint in her purple eyes, because that will be the last time that tongue of yours speaks human words. The scream tore through the shadows of the trees, followed closely by begging. Please forgive me. As long as you don't cut off my tongue, I'll do anything. Syria reached out and grabbed the male servant's jaw. Why should I cut off your tongue? Besides that, there are many ways to make you shut up. Using the secret treasure passed down through generations of the Delphina dukedom, I will place a curse on your tongue. If you dare to leak a single word of what happened here, the curse will sever your tongue. The male servant trembled all over, his pupils constricting in fear, blood seeping from his nose. Please stop. Syria looked down at the stone statue in her palm, the corners of her mouth hooking upwards. Screams pierced through the entire domed building. Help! Someone save me! Syria walked through the long corridor under everyone's gaze, her dress brushing over the stone-tiled floor. It will be troublesome if he died. Take him to a doctor. Syria stood in the center of the hall, looking around at the cowering servants. Now, is there anyone else who wants to insult me or disobey my orders? Speak up. The hall fell into a deathly silence. The servants lowered their heads, avoiding her gaze, daring not to make sound. Syria lowered her eyelids. I must reorganize the dukedom as soon as possible. Root out the remnants of Ludwig and Evangeline. Tonight's events will inevitably become gossip. The faster and more decisively I handle it, the higher my evaluation will be. Those of you who colluded with the Grand Duke and committed acts of betrayal against the Delphina family, write down the names and details. Submit a written statement immediately. Syria stepped forward, her high heels clicking on the ground. Those who provide useful information may be granted amnesty. In this critical moment, direct action must be rewarded. All reorganization must be completed tonight. Several hours later, the office of the Delphina Manor was brightly lit. Syria sat at the desk, pressing down on the mountain of written statements. Now you can laugh at me all you want. Alpert took off his mask. Why would I laugh at you? Syria lowered her head slightly. It's obvious. Syria pressed her hand on the paper, her fingertips sliding over the dense text. Look at these mountains of statements. Anyone who hasn't embezzled family assets looks like a fool. The situation is a mess. I can't even work properly. I couldn't even manage my own household affairs properly. Things have escalated to this point. So of course you would laugh at me. Alpert turned around, his eyes sharp as he stared at Syria's face. I'm not laughing at you. Syria's eyes widened slightly, her gaze lingering on Alpert's face. That's unexpected. Syria withdrew her gaze and lowered her head to organize the documents on the table. Anyway, I gave you a chance. From now on, I won't accept any ridicule or sarcasm regarding this matter. Alpert looked down at Syria. Rather than that, I have something I want to ask. Alpert leaned closer to the desk. The magic item you just used on the servant, can it really inflict a curse? Is it really possible to cast a curse with such specific trigger conditions? Is that really possible? The corners of Syria's mouth turned up slightly. Syria clasped her hands together in front of her chest, closed her eyes, and laughed. Of course, it's a complete lie. It's just a toy. As long as you say the activation word, it emits various lights and flaps its wings. I just made it glow red to scare him as much as possible. Alpert looked down at her. You really are an unfathomable woman. Syria looked down at the newly glowing bird. But this is very precious to me. It's the last gift my mother left me, threatening others with my mother's keepsake. You must be very disappointed in me. Alpert lowered his head in silence. No, I actually admire you. Syria froze, her eyes widening slightly. Just like when you were before the Emperor, wearing your mother's keepsake and lying through your teeth without batting an eye. It was equally impressive. Syria lowered her head and closed her eyes, responding softly, Ah, you mean when I went to have an audience with the Emperor? Alpert gazed at Syria. Your mother would actually be happy. Syria looked up abruptly. Her eyes widened. The purpose doesn't matter. As long as you used it to gain an advantage, she would feel relieved. Honestly speaking, it's just sophistry. Mother is gone. I have no idea what she would want. Syria looked ahead, a smile appearing on her lips. But why do these foolish words? They make me feel so comforted. One more thing. Alperd gazed at the bird toy in his hand. Since you used this to threaten me, you should clean up those rats thoroughly. That way, I won't feel that this marriage I was threatened in has wronged me. Syria smiled helplessly. Hearing you say that, anyone would think you were the one kidnapped in a marriage. Next morning, sunlight pierced through the clouds. Ludwig sat up in bed, pressing his hand to his forehead, letting out a painful groan. My head hurts. Ludwig looked around. Where is this? A male servant bowed his head. This is the Grand Duke's residence, Your Grace. The Grand Duke's residence? I should be at the Delphina mansion. Crisp footsteps approached from afar. The door was pushed open violently. Evangeline rushed to the bed and swung her right arm, slapping Ludwig heavily across the face. Ludwig covered his red and swollen cheek, looking up in shock. Evangeline, what are you doing? Evangeline looked down at him, her eyes flashing with a cold light. Do you have any idea what you've done?